Broad in, over the wicket, full. That had a little shape away, if anything. And it's driven up to mid-off. There is no run. We saw Root warming up, as if he fancies he might be having a little bowl at some point.
Lack of a spinner, isn't it?
Now, there's a number 7 shirt out there that's Billings' shirt, but it does not look like Billings to me. Does that look... Oh, it is Billings. Is that Billings out there?
I don't know who he's on for.
Who is he on for? I can see Anderson at mid-on. I can see Burns at mid-wicket.
Wood, I think.
Yeah.
I've been having a look round.
Thank you, Andy. You have a lot to do, don't you? The questions and the scoring and the player spotting. Broad is in, and Young leaves us alone outside the off stump.
Just skips off the pitch a little bit newer, a little bit harder.
Is it the warmth of the ball? Somebody suggested to me that maybe the balls are kept somewhere, like, because it's quite muggy in here, isn't it?
Listen, when I used to play in the nets, and in December, January, the coach used to bring the balls out of his boot of his car in the nets, and they were all freezing cold. They did nothing, and then after an hour or two, everything, and the balls warmed up themselves. Yeah, they started doing a bit.
Broad in, and that's swung, and it's taken an edge, has it, and lands just in front of Bracey. Do you know, before that ball was taken by Bracey, Sibley came hurtling down as if he thought a wicket had been taken.
In a strange way, I think he thought he'd bowled him,
I wonder if he thought that.
Yes, because it's been absolute beauty.
Yes, I don't think he has taken the edge, and in either sense, it landed just in front of Bracey. It has. It did take. It takes a little feather and has died on the keeper.
Didn't carry.
Well, Bracey's going to be wondering what he's doing back there.
Right, England, we've got to make the most of this ball now, because it's things starting to happen.
Anderson at the far end, are you going?
Without doubt.
Broad runs away from us with this ball that's now starting to talk. And that's punched off the back foot into the covers. There's no run. It's 40... It's notionally 43 overs old, so it might be going through its midlife crisis.
I love that, yes. I think you're spot on. It's going through its midlife crisis.
Yes, might be doing that.
I wonder why they say a ball starts to talk. I'm going to go this way. No, I'm not going to go that way.
Yes.
I'm going to swing. No, I'm not going to bounce.
It's just capricious, isn't it? Shall I, shan't I? Oh, see how I feel.
Yeah, but something is happening now, so it's a good tactic for England to get that changed.
Yes, they had gone out of shape. It wouldn't go through the caliper thingy. As Broad is in, and that's played off the pads. It was swinging into the pads of Young, and he's just turned it around the corner, down to long leg. Throw comes in. End of the over, 132 for 1. Young has 40, Conway 79. Be interesting to see here, 133 for 1, I beg your pardon. Be interesting to see, will it be Anderson? Anderson striding towards the City end. And yes, he's walking in a straight line. Back behind the umpire.
Well, it's just started to swing.
Taking the hat off.
Just started to swing, hasn't it? So you put on your number one boy, don't you, really? So, yeah, pretty obvious one for me to get James Anderson doing it.
I'm just thinking that I suppose the ball that they had out there, it might be warmer in the room that it's kept in than it is than the ball you're using out there, because it's a little chilly.
Yeah.
Not chilly, is it? Yes. But there's a little frisson.
Might have been just by a radiator or something.
Could have been just by a radiator.
Or this hole that's pumping out
heat into your feet, yes. It is Anderson. It starts a new over to Young, and it's a back of a length ball. He's never going to swing from that length, and it's just played back to Anderson, who considers using his feet, and then he thinks better of it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've been very impressed with these two New Zealanders, though, is that they've realised that the ball's doing a little bit more and just gone into their shell a bit, haven't they? They've just like to leave a little bit more outside the off stump. That's good match awareness, game awareness. They realise something's happened, and they're just, because they were just starting to free flow there, weren't they, with those short balls and playing the pulls and a few off drives. Now they've realised that this ball's doing a bit, and they've just started to leave better again.
They're very adaptable, aren't they?
Yeah, clever.
Anderson in, and that's short and cut out towards the boundary. I think a little hand on that was it Pope at cover? But I don't... Well, it's pulling up just in front of the Holly stand, and it has brilliantly been retrieved. Wow, it might be futile. No, he's kept them to 3. Who is that that's run all the way out there? Is that Stone? Ollie Stone, the fast bowler, has chased all the way from extra cover. So there was initial half stop. Very good sort of little bit of hand on it, and then Stones chased after it, and literally I'd say 3 inches inside the boundary sponge, He's pulled it back and then vaulted in front, almost face planted in front of the Hollies stand. 136 for 1.
Not a good look in front of the Hollies.
No, that's the last place you want to do it. Really.
Yeah, there's a chance you might cop a bit for that.
Yes, and Pavilion at Lords would be the safest, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
Right, my dear fellow. Okay. Anderson's now over the wicket to the left-handed Conway. And Conway lets this go by, just as Phil Tufnell said.
Yep.
Awareness.
Yeah. When you just sort of think that perhaps some of the inexperienced England batsmen might have not quite have picked up on that, and carried along on the merry way and perhaps nicked one or two.
The extraordinary thing is that neither of these batters are experienced, and yet they play like they are. I mean, Conway is, isn't he? Because he's 29, he's been around, but he's new to Test cricket. You would not know it to look at him.
Well, as you say, they're all hewn out of
lava, I think
granite.
we said, yeah. Anderson in, wide of the off stump, through to Bracey. Shouldering arms.
And they strike me as that kind of team, New Zealand. They always have been, really. That sort of well drilled and well organised,
making the most of their talent.
Yes, and everything's well.
Well, yes. It's sort of cheating, isn't it, really, to do that, to get the most out of your talent.
Yeah. I know.
I think in England we sort of prefer to see just what happens. Anderson is in to Conway. Conway again leaves this. Anderson cannot induce anything from Conway. Can't induce any sort of naughtiness. And Conway won't mind. We've seen with balls that have been changed, actually. That Pattinson ball, that Edgbaston incident in 2019, it swung prodigiously for quite a short period of time. A breakthrough was affected, and then it sort of quietened down again. Became a bit dull again. It was almost like it had sort of had a temper, and then it was, I don't know, just sort of lobotomised after that. He pushes his next ball to the offside, Conway. It's fielded by Stuart Broad, and they'll pick up a single. It was just pushed to the right of Broad at mid-off. 137 for 1. Conway 80, Young 44. We've got various extraordinary things happening away to my left in the box as Henry Moran is...
that's perfect.
Is just creating the perfect atmosphere for us all.
There's this hole.
It's better now.
There's quite
the holes. It's sending.
It's tickling
your eyes. Yes, I can see that. You don't need that, do you?
No.
End of the over. Young 44. Conway 80.
And now we've got some face coverings over the hole and Dennis Amos's cricket book. Which is doing a fantastic job.
And it's good for reading as well, by the way. Broad in, 2 steps into Conway, lets this go by through to Bracey, and there's no run. Andy, I suppose you're on top of, you will be, people who've got hundreds in their first 2 Test matches. That'll be a long list, will it?
Still got 20 runs to go, but as I mentioned, he's only the 10th player, Conway, to score 300 runs in his first 2 Tests.
Marvellous.
And if he gets as far as, I think, 133, he will overtake Tip Foster for most runs in his first 2 Test matches.
Oh, that's exciting, isn't it? R.E. Tip Foster.
Tip Foster.
He got 287 in his first innings in Test cricket. I want to say Sydney. I say 1903. That feels about right.
That's ridiculous.
Brought it to Conway, who defends on the front foot into the covers. Both fields as they run.
You've got to explain yourself now. You have to explain yourself how you know that Tip Foster did that at Sydney, because I'm not too bad on my knowledge of my history.
It's one of my favourite numbers, 287. I don't know why, it just stuck with me, and I read it. And
is that what it is? It's the number, is it?
I like the number. It's stuck in my head. I know you're looking at me oddly now.
No, not at all. I wished I could be like you.
No, I don't. You don't want to go that far. Broad into Conway on the pads, flicked away in the air and taken. Caught at deep square leg. Where's that come from? Conway has played a false shot. He's just flicked the ball off his pads down to deep backward square, and the England fielders are cock a hoop. They can't believe it. That is a nothing ball has produced a wicket from a man who has never looked like playing that shot, and he is now walking more slowly than any cricketer has ever walked. He's walking more slowly than James Bracey did yesterday, because he knew there was 100 there for the taking. And that's come out of nowhere. Incredible. Broad's got his man. New Zealand are 137 for 2.
As Elvis says, he's been caught in the leg side trap, hasn't he? and he can get out. He's whipped that half volley off a leg stump. I don't know whether he knew he was there.
He possibly hadn't clocked it, had he?
No, that's right, because he's
still not off the ground yet.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not surprised, because I think he just saw himself with 4 runs added to his total, and he's absolutely middled it. And he's crunched it out to the bloke behind square, right on the fence, and he's called it about chest high. Unbelievable. It can only be a lapse of concentration and not knowing where the field is.
It's got to be, hasn't it?
Got to be, because he's played so beautifully up to there, completely in control and in charge, and knows where the fielders are and knows when to leave.
Well, it was a full ball on the pads. When people are caught at deep backward square, they're normally caught pulling, hooking, top edging.
But it wasn't.
This was a flick, and we've I've not seen him play the flick.
No, it wasn't a sort of like head over it and clip off the legs, for 1 or 4 through the leg side. That was intentionally almost like a one-day shot, like a real get under it, and almost hit it for 6.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a bonus wicket for England, I tell you.
Absolutely. Needed to get rid of Devon Conway, because he's been playing wonderfully well. So, don't quite know I'll tell you what that reminded me of.
Yes?
Adelaide.
Oh?
With your memory. I was on the tour.
Gower?
Yes,
Gower?
yes, yeah.
Last ball before tea or something. Flicky off the hip, down to the long leg.
Yeah.
Nightmare. It's always Adelaide, isn't it? It's always something terrible happening at Adelaide from an England point of view.
But you're right, that's an absolute bonus wicket.
It was Crawley out there with the catch. You don't normally see Crawley down at deep square leg. And when it came off his bat, I didn't expect there to be a man there either.
No, I think he was hiding, sort of camouflaged in the seats.
It shocked everybody. It shocked the crowd. They're thoroughly delighted. They're up and ready and going. And again, as Taylor comes out to bat, he's been in unusual form. Broad is into him. Holly stand in full voice outside the off stump through to the keeper. And there's no run. Suddenly the atmosphere is back.
Yes, well, they've been waiting a while, the Hollies, to cheer England. Yeah, because when he hit it, I didn't think there was a fielder there either. I think it's been a very sort of undercover field change.
He sort of ghosted into position, didn't he?
Well, it's worked.
Yeah, amazing. 137 for 2. Broad is in to Taylor. Taylor leaves alone outside the off stump, and suddenly there's just a different feel. The ball's kissing off the pitch and zipping off the pitch. There's a little bit of movement, and there's a new batter at the crease, and Taylor comes into this with sort of a frenetic second innings thrash at Lord's. And before that, he came on in the first innings and he needed eye drops, didn't he? And he looked actually like he was sort of peering through the gloom. He looked uncomfortable and not settled in that first test. And he will come to you off this ball. Is this Conway stats? Broad is in. Full-throated roar behind him now, and Taylor works a full ball round his front pad down to long leg to get off the mark with a single. 138 for 2. That is the end of the over. A successful over for England. It's come in the most unusual and unlikely way. But it's Devon Conway who's gone for 80, 138 for 2, and his Oldsman.
Conway 80 from 143 balls with 12 fours. The partnership was 122 in 39.5 overs.
Thank you. And you've got some Stuart Broad news for me.
I do. He's just gone past Courtney Walsh into 6th place on the all-time wicket takers list. Those 2 wickets he's taken today, taken him to 520 at an average of 27.8. Ahead of him, McGrath, Anderson, Kumble, Warne and Muralitharan, some way distant at 800 wickets.
It's tracking down the seamers, only the spinners really, apart from, as you say, Anderson.
And McGrath, I suppose. Yeah. McGrath's at 43 wickets away. That's not many.
It's doable.
Broad's 4 years younger than Anderson. Will he go on as long? Who knows? That's all for another day's speculation. At the moment, it's Anderson who's going to resume from the City end to the right-handed Taylor. 3 slips. And he's leaving this ball as Taylor. He didn't play and miss. He just brought his bat inside the line. It was sort of back of a length ball. Didn't threaten the edge. What's the rest of this field? We have a mid-wicket, mid-on, mid-off, cover, backward point. And a long leg. So where are you targeting Taylor? Is it that nip backer? Is it the LBW? He's been trapped LBW in the last game.
Yeah, you kind of think that he can play across that front pad. Doesn't necessarily look to get that front foot right out, doesn't it? But it's going to come back to the old thing of hit the top of off stump. If it nips back, LBW. If it nips away, he might get an outside edge.
Very fine player, of course. New Zealand's leading run scorer. Anderson's into him. He goes for a cut. And there's an appeal from the Holly stand, which is turned down by the umpire. Goes through to Bracey, low. There's no run. Good effort. Briefly, Bracey was a little bit excited, but he didn't really mean it. Neither did Rupert. But you see, it's a loose shot, isn't it? Nobody in the New Zealand side is playing that shot, other than Taylor. Latham isn't. Conway isn't. We haven't seen it from Young. Nichols definitely isn't.
Well, he is the one player who does like to feel bat on ball, isn't he? And try to get some momentum with his batting. He's the kind of fellow who likes to get a couple of fours as a kickstart to his innings.
Anderson's into him, and he's beaten this time on the outside edge. Full ball, it's moved away. Suddenly the ball is moving. Suddenly things are happening, and every ball is eliciting a roar of excitement. How cricket is a lunatic game, isn't it? Obviously nothing was happening for much of the middle session except steady and brilliant accumulation from the New Zealand batters. And now, after tea, and just before tea actually, when that ball was changed, and now just after, that ball's moved prodigiously from Anderson.
You were just wondering where they're going to be targeting Ross Taylor. There, that was a cracker.
Here is Anderson again, and goes up on his toes to defend a shorter ball into the onside. And it travels no more than 4 or 5 yards from the bat. The lights are on, the clouds are high but grey. The crowd are now going, Barmy Army, etc. We're into that lubricated stage.
Yeah. I don't think the clouds have got any higher or lower or darker.
Sort of been there, haven't they?
Yeah, they've just been there all day, so it can only be the ball.
Weirdly, the breeze has kept being quite stiff all day, so we've just had this blanket of cloud, dull, unrain-bearing cloud. Anderson in to Taylor, who defends a full ball from the crease back to Anderson. 138 for 2 the score remains. Young 44. Taylor has 1. I wonder if Young's going to change his approach a bit. You know, partnerships, lovely thing, isn't it, when you're batting with someone you have complete confidence in Conway.
Yep.
But now Will Young's got to bat with Taylor, who's got to be sort of shepherding him a little bit.
Well, they definitely have. What's that?
So I'll come back to it. It's the average swing before and after the change of ball.
Yeah.
Anderson's in to complete the over, and that's moved away again, but Taylor leaves it alone. Basically, we've had double the amount of swing since the change of ball. 138 for 2, Young 44, Taylor 1. More from Phil Tufnell, and then it will be Jonathan Agnew.
Well, the bowlers seem to have got a bit more of a spring in their step as well, because they're using a better rock. I think that they can feel that it's got a bit more about it, this ball. And it shows it there, the percentage. Twice as much swing since the ball change. England have got to make the most of it. They're not out of it by any means. 138 for 2. They've sort of kept New Zealand in check, and another couple of wickets, they'll be back in the test match. It was needed, that wicket, John. It was a weird one, wasn't it?
It was absolutely nailed it, didn't he? A terrific shot. It was how he got to his century at Lords, of course. That's a flamingo-like shot on one leg, but he absolutely picked out Crawley. 138 for 2. Young is on 44. Broad's on his way to him. Bowls a bouncer, swings after it, bounces on its way through to Bracey. There will be those who'll say that's the second time that Conway's been caught Crawley bowled Broad today, but particularly Stuart Broad.
Yes. Yeah, you could see he was miffed with that decision.
Yes. But he played well again, though. It was lovely straight bat.
They've found someone, haven't they?
Yep, a lot of time.
We've seen a lot more of Devon Conway in Test cricket, I'm sure. And the other formats. He plays all formats, doesn't he? Yeah.
Broad. Floodlights burning down on his way. Bowls the right-handed Young, who drives him. Lovely shot, that. But picks out cover. It was a beautiful, silky cover drive. Just swinging away. England were quite canny. I was sitting outside with Alistair, thinking they're going to try any minute and try and change this ball.
Yeah. well, we were just saying with Dan, it swung twice as much.
Yeah.
It said.
And then you heard the one that they changed it. You could hear it. It sounded really soft on the bat. It sort of almost clothed it. Poof. And sure enough, that was the one with Stuart's ball. I think, right, here we go.
Well, that's what happens. People say, how do you change the ball? The thing that does happen to them is they sort of get bigger because they get softer,
Yeah.
don't they? They lose their sort of roundness and firmness.
In goes Broad, he bowls to Will Young, and that's the in-swinger. And Young allowed that to go through, collected by Bracey. Good stamina being shown in the Hollies stand. Some stewards wandering around in there now, keeping an eye on proceedings. Up and down the gangways. So apart from one interloper, who I think might regret that tomorrow when he gets the bill.
I think it's £1,000, isn't it?
Yeah, he gets the bill for that, he might regret it.
Yeah. Pound a week.
So Broad is ready to go again. Over the wicket. And he bowls an in-swinger that thumps into Young's pad high up on the thigh. Most of the Hollies stands appeals, but not even Broad tempted by that one.
Hooping in swinger.
It is. Really did swing.
But Stewart doesn't particularly swing it, does he?
No.
Not a huge swinger of the ball, is it? That absolutely ducked in late.
Yeah, it's surprising that the first one didn't swing because, but as we're hearing at lunchtime, it's not all about just the conditions. There's an awful lot at play that's got to determine whether a ball will swing or not. Broad again. Young waits for him, bat raised, is there, and he bowls to him, an in-swinger, but he's in perfect position to drive to mid-off. And there's no run, 138 for 2. Young rehearses his shot down there. Twiddle of the bat. It's for Broad to wander back, polishing the ball on his trousers. Tweak up the shirt collar. A couple of deep breaths. And he's off again, carrying the shadows of the floodlights at his feet. Is there, and he bowls an outswinger this time, and there you go, he's bowled 2 inners and an outer, so it's moving around. However, England have managed to take just 2 wickets so far at 138 for 2, and that does prove the point about the balls, doesn't it, because the conditions are exactly the same.
Yes.
But one ball is swinging and the one previous just didn't swing at all, so they had to wait.
I mean, in New Zealand's first innings, when that cloud got a bit lower, it started to move around just after lunch, didn't it? But the cloud has been exactly the same here all day. The wind's been blustery as well, the same temperature. So
everything's the same.
It's the ball. It is the ball.
Some balls swing, some don't.
Yeah, and Stuart Ball's action hasn't changed, and Jimmy Anderson's action hasn't changed. Can only be that.
Ross Taylor has an interesting record against Jimmy Anderson. I'll come to it after this ball.
Waiting now. He's got 1 to his name. Anderson bowls to him as a thick outside edge. It beats Burns at gully. Running down to third man. He should get there. It's quite a thick edge. This thing scoop it back. In fact, he doesn't. He throws it himself. And Taylor picks up another couple.
It now has 243 runs off Jimmy Anderson from 315 balls, going at 4.6 and over off Anderson. Now, did play against Anderson in the earlier period of his career. Taylor made a fine 100 at Old Trafford in 2008 when Anderson was a looser bowler, conceded, was quite an expensive bowler, although he still took wickets. But even so, that's an impressive figure against a bowler who's had such incredible control over the last few years. Only been out 5 times, averages 48 against Anderson in tests.
In comes Anderson, and a dip of the head is there, and he bowls to Taylor, squared up and pushes forward, doesn't get very far onto that front foot, just enough to get in a good position to send the ball back to the bowler again. 140 for 2. Beautiful weekend forecast, whether you're
gorgeous,
whatever you might be doing. But
is tomorrow meant to be good as well? Is it Sunday's the belter?
Sunday's the one when you threatened to come in shorts, I think. But it's up in the high 20s, I think.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's hard to imagine it at the moment, isn't it? With this low cloud hanging overhead. Anderson bowls outside the off stump, and Taylor lets that go by. But we're going to wake up tomorrow, and it's going to be a
scorcher,
sizzler, I think. So whatever you're doing, hope you have a wonderful weekend. Barbecuing, gardening, off here and there. Little trip out. We had our little break. We went to Aberystwyth a few weeks ago. That was rather nice. It was very nice.
I think I've played in Aberystwyth.
Have you? I didn't find a cricket ground.
Oh, didn't you? Aberystwyth?
I don't think I did.
No, perhaps not. Colwyn Bay.
That's up at the north, isn't it? Anderson bowls and Taylor covers up and plays to a double. We thought we can't stay anywhere. It was just before hotels opened in England, so we thought we'd head off to Wales.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. Beautiful countryside. Fabulous beaches to run the dog on.
They have.
Yeah. And it was great. The funny thing was that the school that I attended was evacuated to a little town called Borth, which is about 5 miles north of Aberystwyth in 1874, because typhoid hit the town of Uppingham. It's a fascinating story. Here comes Anderson bowls. It is outside the off stump. And
Can't
Taylor
be a
lets
good
it go.
typhoid story.
I'm telling it's a good story. And it was all kicking off. It wasn't very good at the town at all. So the town folk were blaming the school were blaming the town folk.
Right.
So the headmaster of the school said, right, that's it.
Yeah.
And in 1874, they got 300 schoolboys, all the teachers and their families, the cricket pitch roller and goodness knows what else, stuck it on a train and went from Uppingham to Borth. Right on the west coast of Wales.
Yeah.
And how they got there in 1874, I mean, what that train journey must have been like. In comes Anderson, bowls a beauty that swings away from Taylor. He pushed at it, and Bracey there holds it up in his gloves. No nick. Anyway, they got off at Borth station, which I went to visit. It's part of the reason that we went, actually. I've always been fascinated by the story.
Yeah.
And it's one little single track, obviously.
Yeah.
A lovely old brick railway station.
Picket fence.
With sheep on one, there's sheep field on one side. And imagine all this entire school disgorging from a train in 1874, and they got there, and everything had gone quite well with research and stuff. I don't know why they picked Borth necessarily, except for a bit of sea air, probably.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they got there, no one spoke English.
Oh, no. Right.
And none of the schools spoke Welsh.
No. Oh.
So they got farmed out into people's houses, and there's a local hotel that others went into as well. And they were there for 14 months in this remote location. So they never saw their families or anything, obviously.
No.
And by the end of the 14 months, the locals spoke English, and the school spoke Welsh.
Oh.
And it all ended very happily. In goes Broad, bowls, turned away down to long leg. And I said to him, as we drove into Emma, I said, what is any sort of memento here or something, landmark of Uppingham having been here?
School cap.
Well, we drove down the sort of main drag, I suppose, a very small place. And sure enough, there was a signpost to Uppingham Playing Fields. And so the playing fields in the middle of Borth were named after the school. And there is an old roller there, and I wondered, is that the old roller that made the journey from Uppingham in Rutland to Borth on the west coast of Wales by train in 1874? So we made a little pilgrimage.
You're pitching a Netflix series.
In goes Broad, and he bowls outside the off stump. Taylor lets it go by. It would make it an interesting little Netflix mini drama, wouldn't it? A box set. But it's fact 1874.
Man.
Goodness knows what route they were taking. Anyway, we've ticked that off. It was a little pilgrimage I always wanted to do.
I wouldn't have fancied lugging the roller all the way from Uppingham to Borth.
On the train.
Oof. Might have been a team effort, that.
Yeah. But they learnt Welsh. There's a lovely place. It's a beautiful part of the world. It really is. I'm really glad that we
I can't wait.
Give it a go.
Till episode 2.
That's what episode 2 is. 141 for 2. In goes Broad again. Bowls. Oh, my words, straight through Taylor.
How's he missed that?
Pushing at thin air.
Has that gone outside edge?
Yeah, I think it probably just did.
Mentioned Taylor's head-to-heads against Anderson. He's fared considerably less well against Broad. He's been out 10 times to Broad for 200 runs, so averaging 20 against Broad, who has a fantastic record against some of the finest players of his era. Warner, he's got out 12 times, Michael Clarke 11, and A.B. de Villiers 10 times for just 163 runs.
Yeah. Gets the big boys out, doesn't he? I can remember that. He had Warner all day long, didn't he?
Isha's being premature here. I'm not finished yet. 141 for 2. In goes Broad. Bowls outside the off stump. And there's no stroke from Taylor. It's confusing when you're doing
yes,
radio.
I know. I don't quite know where I am sometimes.
I'll forgive her. She gives him all her stuff's here, look.
Yes.
You haven't pitched Series 2 yet when the aliens come down to Bull.
That could be episode 2, couldn't it?
It's like Harry Potter.
Well, I think it's a lovely story.
Yes, I do.
Well,
and that's why he went down.
It ends happily ever after, and they went all back to Uppingham and the drains had been repaired. So that was it. There was no more typhoid. It was a proper issue in those days, I'd imagine. 141 for 2. Yeah. Taylor on 3, in goes Broad. He's there and he bowls. Oh, that's lovely in-swinger. It's going all over the place out there. Broad's got this ball on like a piece of string. this way and that way. Taylor's doing some gardening. That won't help you, mate. It's just got nothing to do with the pitch. You can garden all you like. This is skillful swing bowling. It's just hit the seam there, straightened up a little bit. 141 for 2. Taylor's come down to help him as well. Young's having a word. But very awkward batting now in these conditions, and the ball moving around. Taylor's over his bat again. Vastly experienced, of course, 37 years old. He's seen it all. Then goes broad again, and he bowls outside the off stump, and Taylor's hides his bat behind the pad, and it's collected by Bracey. Lovely over. Sort of sit and admire bowling like this. 141 for 2.
So what was the pitch like at Borth?
Looked like it needed the roller, but it was in the long grass.
Fancy taking a roller. I don't know whether we even had a roller at
There you go.
Onslow College, where I was.
No, but it was. Are you interested by that story?
I was.
Yeah. Borth. You look it up.
What was the reason that you had to leave? I didn't miss that part.
It wasn't 1874. Well, I didn't leave anyway.
No, I understand that.
Typhoid.
Oh, typhoid.
Yeah, it ravaged the town and the school. I mean,
At Upping.
Yeah, people were dying. So so they
Off to the fresh air.
We're going off to get some sea air, and they chose Borth. Then comes Anderson from the city end and bowls outside the off stump. Young lets it go by on 45. It's a lovely little. You like pottering around.
I do. I do like that.
I really,
Is it
really recommend that part of the world.
Is it south of Cardigan?
South of Cardigan. That's a good question. No, it's north of Cardigan, isn't it?
I don't know.
Or is it Cardigan itself? Isn't Cardigan a big bay? It might be. Gordon emails. I thought it said from Aberystwyth. It's about Aberystwyth. The university ground used to be a Glamorgan out ground. Oh, it has got a big university there. It's outside the off stump, and Young plays no stroke. Fantastic track for batting. I took 6, 5 and 4 wickets in 3 University of Wales games there for St David's Lampeter. Oh, I saw the sign for Lampeter. Thank you, Gordon. There is a big university.
He says it's good for batting, and then he claimed how many wickets? Well done.
He took just the 15
Excellent.
wickets in 3 games, so well done, Gordon.
Yes, in tough conditions. Yes.
No one ever got any wickets there apart from Gordon.
No.
There's a little plaque up there, Gordon, to commemorate your excellent bowling. In comes Anderson and bowls fairly straight and turned into the leg side by Young. And there's no run. Come on, look up that map. Where is Cardigan's the whole bay, isn't it? Isn't it Cardigan Bay?
There's a Cardigan town as well.
Yes.
Borth is sort of halfway up the coast of Cardigan Bay. Cardigan, the town, is to
right
the
in
south.
the middle, really, of the.
So a lovely beach.
Beautiful beaches. Walk for miles. Bob Repper emails Dr. Nigel Richardson, former deputy head of Uppingham and later the head of the Perse School, Cambridge, completed his PhD thesis on that typhoid outbreak at Uppingham when he retired in 2008. In comes Anderson, bowls outside the off stump. The things that you said off. He was actually my deputy housemaster. That came from nowhere, that. Nigel Richardson. Hope you're doing well, Nigel. Small world, an even smaller world in Borth.
What does a deputy housemaster have to do?
Well, he
does a PhD.
He offers guidance.
That's what he does.
He offers guidance.
Yeah.
I don't know. He probably dished out the odd punishment. No, not that. That didn't exist. I saw your hand flourish there. 141 for 2. There's a lovely stroke from Young. He's driven Anderson through the covers. Wonderful shot, that. He's got 4, and he deserved at least that. Beautifully timed cover drive. He goes to 49, 145 for 2. No, recommend it. Lots of sheep.
Thank you.
A lot of sheep.
Thank you for that.
But the fields are so green. The grass is just this beautiful green. The rolling hills.
I always feel D.H. Lawrence is setting his novels somewhere around there when you find people running half naked around through the bracken. Bracken.
Why half naked? In comes Anderson. Bowls. Oh, there's a
Look.
thickish edge and played down into the gully. Rob Durrant, listening to you from sunny Borth, sat in my camper van, north of Cardigan, waiting for my daughter Tilly to have her Friday afternoon surf lesson. There you are.
There you go.
That's the contact. Lovely. And it's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it? So I really hope you're enjoying yourselves there. Very friendly.
Well, I've got to look for a place to take the girls.
You're still wondering about this?
Yes.
Wow.
And certainly Wales.
You can go have a pilgrimage to Borth.
Yes.
Lots of camping there.
Yeah.
Are you any good at pitching a tent?
You're very good.
Are you?
Yes.
I think you probably would be, actually.
Yep.
Well, there you are. There's a very, very real opportunity, and it's not. There are sort of windy road, over the top, sort of like Snowdon and stuff.
It's that far north of Snowdonia.
Or you can go straight through. I mean, it's 145 for 2. Broad's on his way, and he bowls to Taylor. He tortured him in his last over. This one swings away outside his off stump and collected by the keeper.
It's now 10 overs since the ball was changed. Just 19 runs for 1 wicket in that time. In the previous 5 overs, New Zealand had got on top of England, scoring 29 runs without losing a wicket.
Tony Hastings. I went to university in Aberystwyth. My mate and I walked to Borth and then got the train back to Aberystwyth. From Uppingham to Borth must have been about 5 train changes. I watched Hinterland and saw all the old... They'd have to take the roller off.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah. Imagine rolling that.
Imagine going up those stairs and going over the...
Wouldn't have had lifts, would
No.
they? It's Broad bowling. Oh my word, what a ball that is. That started about middle stump. It went a half volley length, but it swung, missed the off stump and the outside edge, and Taylor's looking for a replay. I don't think you want to watch it, Ross, really. I think you just put that one away. He's tapping at the pitch. It's got nothing to do with that. What a beauty that was. It's just too good. He was playing it to mid-on. Absolute crackerjack of a ball.
His lack of foot movement actually helped him there. It's the first time I've seen it help him.
Sophie Brown. I walked the whole coast of Wales. Cardigan is 4 days' walk south of Aberystwyth. That's what you do with your girls. They'll love you for it. In goes Broad over the wicket, and he bowls again to Taylor. Forward he comes very cautiously and plays to mid-on, where it's fielded by Anderson.
Well, it does sound a good spot.
Oh, it's lovely.
Like to get them out to the water if I can.
Well, surfing.
Yeah.
Tilly's out there having a lesson now.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes.
Long, sandy
Have you ever
beaches.
tried that? Surfing is not easy for me.
No.
Just too tall.
No. I saw someone once.
Even getting up. There's a lot of physical effort in catching up with the water.
No, I think it looks incredible. I mean, it must be a beautiful thing to do.
Oh,
if you can do it well. 3 slips awaiting. Broad again on his way. Bowls. Taylor keeps the batters hidden behind the pad there. And I saw a windsurfer having lessons once. We were on tour and we were in Barbados. And it was a woman, and she was having a lesson. It's all carefully done by the people on the beach, as they do in the hotels. And
yes.
There you go, and so on. And she set off sort of solo, and it dawned on most of us after about 10 minutes that
she's not coming back.
She hadn't learned how to turn round.
No.
And so there was this moment where you could hear the old went off went a boat.
To get her.
Go and drag her back again.
Yeah.
But it must be difficult.
Or turn around.
In goes Broad, bowls, there's the in-swinger. And Taylor has nothing to do with it. Yeah. But no, those sort of things I'm not very good at. I took Vic Marks out sailing once, somewhere in the Caribbean. I'd done it once or twice. Those sort of Hobie cats he had.
I'd love to have seen that.
Well, there was no wind, and we sat out there for about an hour and a half.
Well, you just had a chat.
Well, we got flayed in the sun, and we couldn't get back, so we were towed in. Oh dear, good fun. 145 for 2. Here's the last ball of the over, and then Isha is coming in. She's primed, she's ready to go, and in goes Broad. Bowls to Taylor, full. He drives this and gets a couple through extra cover to take the score to 147 for 2 and Taylor to 5. Thanks for all your Aberystwyth and Borth contact. That's really nice. That's what it's all about.
It is.
A quiet session.
It is.
Really nice. There we go. And you got Jeremy somewhere to go for his holiday.
And
More thoughts from him, and then Isha's coming in.
Yeah, then Isha will come and tell us where she's been recently. She looks, I think that Isha's probably been to a number of places. I would say, do you holiday often? Do you have schools?
I don't holiday often,
Wales?
but I happen to go to places that have lovely settings.
Do you? You're attracted to those?
Well, I guess via cricket.
Oh, I see.
But I do have a suggestion for you as I just survey the scene here. Lights are on, fairly dramatic skies, gloomy, grey, and the ball is doing a lot in the air and off the pitch. Crowd a little bit more subdued than they were just after lunch, but definitely glued to the action because it has been gripping the last 3 or 4 overs or so since Devon Conway was removed, out of nowhere, really, Jeremy. 3 slips for Anderson coming in from the Birmingham end. Approaches the crease now to Young. Goes down the leg side as Bracey managed to stop it from going to the boundary.
Just a wee lapse, wasn't it? It seems like. I mean, it looked though as though it was a repeat of the getting to 100 at Lord's, didn't it, with the little flamingo pickup? And there was a man out there. It was almost as if he was trying to hit 6. So it was a little bit strange, the whole thing, the dismissal really, and he sort of slumped and couldn't believe that he had made the mistake because he looked so set. I don't know how many wickets have been taken after a break.
Anderson comes in again, Young leaves.
So often it gets you a wicket, doesn't it? If you look at Sibley, straight after lunch on the day 1, went, and then another produced a second wicket, and then a third wicket. And then after tea, Burns driving it, I think, Bolt, and was caught Latham, and then a second wicket came. And then now today, after tea again, let's see if it produces a second for England. I mean, Taylor's certainly having to
he's
scrape around at the moment.
Very hard at the moment. Has looked very scratchy. Will Young on 49 as Anderson is in and covers the ball back to the bowler, smothering it almost, as if to say, "Thou shalt not pass."
So you've got some suggestions? Did you say that? Yeah.
Well, I was telling Phil yesterday about the G7 summit, which is going on down in Cornwall.
They'd love to go there.
Carbis Bay to the G7 summit.
I think Cornwall's more likely to be rammed, isn't it? At that time
it is at the moment. Yeah, it's very difficult to get in.
Yeah.
I've been getting daily updates from my sister-in-law, and there's Anderson bowls on the pads. Young works it to mid-wicket, comes through for 1, and that is 50 up for New Zealand's number 3, coming in place of Kane Williamson. He was incredibly patient at the start of his innings, and he's worked his way to his first Test 50. He raises his bat to the dressing room, out to the crowd, and now shakes hands with Ross Taylor as he returns to the non-striker's end. The score moves to 148 for 2.
Well, it's been a circumspect innings, opened up a little more since, the lovely off-drive and a pick-up on the onside. He's played some nice shots throughout it, mainly defensive.
There's Taylor, defends.
Just what was required, though, for New Zealand to come in after losing Latham quite early, and has worked hard. Well, he's a product, really, of our provincial system. He hasn't played a lot of Test cricket. He's only in his 3rd Test. And there's about 160-odd Test wickets out there for New Zealand at the moment, 160 caps. He's got 3 of them.
Yeah, 162 to be exact, as Anderson comes in and hits the outer part of the bat from Taylor as he shapes to play straight. It finds its way to point as he comes through for 1 at the end of the over. 149 for 2. Will Young on 50, Taylor to 6 then, and James Anderson grabs his cap in disbelief almost that he hasn't managed to pick one up. It's felt like they could grab something in the last 2 or 3 overs. That's the way it goes, I suppose. The door was opened, but it hasn't gone England's way.
Not yet, but it can change. New Zealand are still substantially behind. I suppose Will Young now will have to just continue to keep batting and batting and batting as far as New Zealand are concerned. If they can get through to 220 or something like that at the close of today, perhaps 3 down, no more than that they would hope. And then the game is set up for them in the next day. So with the weather set fair, apparently. Looks like Ollie Stone's going to replace Broad. So a wee bit more pace here.
Yeah, similar heights. As he comes in, right arm over the wicket to Taylor, who raises his bat and gets up on his toes as the ball lifts off the surface through to Bracey. Andy?
I think that's his first Test 50. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, in his 3rd innings, came from 132 balls with 7 fours. 7 runs in his first 44 balls, and became more fluent, 43 from 88 to take him to his half-century. The last 5 first-class 50s he's made, he's converted into hundreds, and another player who's coming off good first-class form since the start of 2018, averaging 53 in first-class cricket.
Taylor still in his crease, crouches, cuts, Wideish ball that gets severely punished out to the boundary. You do not want to bowl there to Ross Taylor. That's the first freebie he's received since he's been at the crease. He's on 10 now of 30 deliveries, and it's 153 for 2.
Yeah, that's his area, and he sets himself up for that, really. That and also the tuck on the onside. If you just get the too much leg side, those are his two areas. He doesn't really get the front foot at all down towards the bowler to get forward. He plays across the crease a lot, and the head falls away, and he never gets quite such a good look at the ball. It's a shame that he's just lost that forward movement.
3 slips for Stone as he cuts again, this time slightly shorter of a length, but not able to get hold of that one as extra cover runs around to collect it to his left. There's a massive gap there between extra and backward point that Ross Taylor is eyeing up. No run is taken.
Just a little bit of movement for Stone from the arm away from Ross Taylor. If he can pitch the ball up to him, he'll get him off balance and might just be able to get him LBW.
Stone pushes away at the crease, bowling to Taylor. Fuller, and he drives to...
That's better.
It's more of a push drive to extra cover, no run. But the way he shapes up, looking to play a lot straighter, and it sort of hits the outer part of the bat, doesn't it? So you always feel you're in the game when it's in that zone.
Absolutely. I mean, he's obviously aware of it. And these little things, I guess, once you play 106 tests or whatever it is, they just creep into your game.
Stone delivers a ball outside the off stump through to Bracey that Taylor leaves easily.
Especially, I mean, if he can bat for maybe 50 deliveries and sort of, he needs a wee bit of luck during that time, but once he gets there, maybe the feet will start to move a little more. But I can't remember Ross Taylor giving a beautiful sort of cover drive for at least a year or two in my memory. It's more cutting, tucking, heaving to the onside. He can be effective, no doubt about that.
Crouches ever so slightly. Now guides the ball to just in front of point. It scuttles through for 1. He knew straight away as he played that with an angled bat and he could come through for the single. So moves to 11, 154 for 2 at the end of the over. Good length delivery for Stone to finish off. Andy, what was Stuart Broad's spell? Because that was seriously impressive.
Either side of T, 8 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 12. His first spell today was 1 for 10 from 7 overs, and 6 of those 10 runs came from the first 2 balls he bowled today. So since the first 2 balls he bowled today, he's bowled 14.5 overs and taken 2 for 16.
Yeah, he got the crowd going.
He's bowled seriously well today, hasn't he? Probing at all the batsmen. A little bit of movement sometimes away from the left-hander, also back into them, looking to get them caught just roundabout square, just in front, just behind. He's picked up Conway, nearly had him twice, didn't he? So, you know, he's been an impressive bowler today.
England's most capped player, Anderson, running in from the Birmingham end to Taylor, who shoulders arms outside the off stump, searching for his first wicket of the test match. Gone for 44 into his 17th over, James Anderson. So, Carbis Bay. Have you been down that way? Carbis Bay.
Carbis Bay, no.
It's probably the further southwest you could go.
Oh, yes.
Apart from, well, Land's End probably is the further southwest, but it's just along that stretch of coastline. Near St Ives is Anderson bowls to Taylor, who's pushing back.
They always talk
down
about
the pitch.
Painters, the light down there at St Ives, don't they?
Yep. There's a number of amazing artists that have come through Cornwall and St Ives in particular. There's a Tate Gallery down there.
And then you go up to Bude. You know, Bude further up the A38. Is it the A38? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's the A38,
Yeah. See, I'm starting to sound like an Englishman
I know.
now.
Taylor, is he struck on the pads? No. Hands on heads for the slip cordon. It was a full delivery on the stumps, looking to work it leg side. And James Anderson turns around and retreats to the top of his mark.
It's a peculiarly English thing, isn't it, to give long instructions. Oh, you want to go down there? Turn right at the haystack. Carry on to the church. Turn. It goes on and on and on. You know, it's a good thing. Everyone has a different idea about it.
As Anderson bowls, Taylor pulls the bat away as he initially looks to fend outside the off stump. Yeah, so you're saying it's not like that in New Zealand?
Well, no. We don't have as many
Simpler
small
directions.
B and C roads and those little lanes that you guys have.
Have you ever been
which
to
are
Milton Keynes?
Yeah, oh dear, don't ask me about that. I do understand about Cartesian planes and things like that, so I plot my way through there, but that's about it. You know, it's like going on a graph, isn't it?
As Taylor struck on the pads this time, Anderson goes up, he's given. The crowd go up. Taylor has a quick look back at Will Young, who's now running towards him.
Taylor thinks it's leg side.
It was angled into middle and leg. Slightly fuller again. And they've decided to review. Michael Goff, the third umpire, you'll hear him very shortly.
Director, we have a player review for LBW. On-field decision is out. It's a fair delivery. Front on spin vision, please.
The only thing that might save him is the length. It's very full. Was it going down leg side? It looks as if it's straightening to me. Oh.
Okay, doesn't appear to be any bat involved, so ultra edge when available, please.
Yeah, clearly no bat on the ball. This will
all the
confirm
way
it.
through to the pad, please. Keep going through to the pad.
Nothing on ultra age.
Yeah, keep going through. Okay, no bat involved, so ball tracking when available, please.
Has it come back enough, Isha? What do you reckon?
No, it's going down.
Do you think it's going to miss the stumps
I think
Ball
it
altogether?
tracking
is.
coming up now.
It's only got to clip him. I think it's going to miss.
Pitching in line, impact is umpire's call, and it's missing the wickets, Richard. So I'll let you know when you're on screen. You're on screen now, Richard. Signal now.
Decision overturned then. There was a lot of excitement in the middle there for that breakthrough. Ross Taylor, when he gets in, can be very dangerous, but England feel they have a chance with him at the moment. 154 for 2 on the board then for New Zealand. Taylor on 11, Young on 50 at the other end.
It's so tempting, isn't it, with Ross, though, with that. It's just like a target. They should have a little sort of circles or something like that on his pad, because that's what it really is. And every bowler looking to hit him. And when it does happen, of course, the temptation, if you're behind the stumps, is to appeal.
Here comes Anderson again. This time plays with a straighter bat. Taylor to mid-on. Mark Wood there sliding and picking up the ball as no run is taken. A bit more on middle from Anderson and a bit more back of a length as well at the end of the over. 154 for 2, Andy.
Ross Taylor's recent form since, I don't know what he had for Christmas dinner, 2019, since then averaging 26. This is his 10th test that he's played since then. In his career, up to that point, he'd averaged 47, and in his previous 50 tests before then, 52.8. So it's been something of a dip over the last year and a half.
The Black Caps' leading run scorer. I remember he broke the record during that series in Australia.
Oh, yes.
But it wasn't a good series for him and the rest of the team, actually.
And he's also been a very effective one-day player for New Zealand as well. So, yep, terrific player. Perhaps tailing off. We'll just have to wait and see. But we've got the heir apparent at the other end. Young is the man who will probably take over from Taylor.
He's very good. Young on 50s. He dabs to the offside, no run.
He bats at number 4 and he plays for Central Districts in New Zealand.
Like Tom Latham has spent some time up at Durham.
Yes.
Is it 200s, you said, ahead of this?
It is. He's just come off 100, I think. There's a few failures for a start, and then a couple just recently.
Taps his bat down delicately. His Stone is in wide of the crease. He smashes that ball up and over the slip cordon. A bit of width on offer, and he flays his hands through it down to the third man boundary. Moves to 54, 158 for 2.
Yeah, well, it was safe. He just saw the width of it, and he almost disdainfully just smashed it away, really, and it didn't matter where it went. It was going to go high and it was going to go hard. No one down there, so it was a pretty safe stroke. Just Stone not quite getting his length or his line right there. He is getting a little bit of away movement, but is just bowling a tad short.
His Stone bowls down the leg side this time, clipped away and fine enough for Will Young to pick up back-to-back boundaries. Motoring along now as he moves to 58, 162 for 2.
Yeah, just overcorrection really, isn't it? The one wide outside the off stump and then looking to get it much straighter, and this one doesn't swing because it starts leg stump. And so Young's able to pick that off very fine.
Anyway, just to finish up on Carbis Bay, good
yes,
surfing.
please.
Good surfing if you want to do some horse riding.
My size. You might be a surfer. I think you'd look good on a surfboard, Isha.
Yes. Young tucks the ball to mid-wicket. A good length delivery from Ollie Stone on the
You
stump.
need the power, though, even just
you
to
do.
get,
My
even
shoulders
to get
just
out
can't.
there.
Yeah, I need help. I need help. Someone pushing me out there in the first place.
And it looks silly. I'd have those little floaties around my arms at the top.
It's quite dangerous though. If you
Water
get
wings.
stuck in
They
the
call
current.
wings water wings. Yeah.
Don't know what are they called.
You know those ones? They're like little
Look at
circles that you
Andy,
stick your
as
arm
if he
in,
knows.
blow them up.
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
As Young leaves that delivery, a rising delivery outside off stump that he would have flayed at had it not been so full.
Don't look at me for things like that. I know about one thing in life.
What? Not to go into the not to do.
Well, I'll
Not
leave
to
it
surf?
Leave it at cricket.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a message from Mother Nature.
Andy-
The human body is
Andy,
not meant for surfing.
I think you like technicalities, and it's probably quite a technical subject.
Stone coming in on an angle to Young, who's back to playing defensively and guides it to extra cover, where Dom Sibley runs in to collect the ball. End of the over then, 162 for 2. Young on 58, Taylor on 11. And we're going to have a change in commentary. In comes Alison Mitchell.
Carbis Bay, I'll remember that. Thank you very much. Surfing. It's 2 suggestions to get me onto the water. Excellent. Clouds have just looked to be separating slightly. There's more blue cloud now above Edgbaston at the moment. So maybe the batsmen are going to just enjoy a decent period. Often that's the case, isn't it? Hello, Ellie.
Hello, Jeremy. I wasn't privy to all of the conversation you just had with Isha, but she says it's Porthmere Beach where you surf.
Yes.
In again is Anderson and Taylor. It's forward, taking a single into the onside shot at the stumps. It misses. It's backed up by the slips, no overthrows, and Young grounds his bats comfortably home.
Do you have a favourite spot to go for holidays? I mean,
Are you talking about the UK specifically or anywhere?
I am.
UK?
Yes.
I haven't done that much holidaying in the UK. But
Well, that's
actually,
interesting.
after Isha got married, I did a little road trip around Cornwall because that was where the wedding was.
yes.
And the weather was terrible. But I lived in Cornwall for about 9 months, so I have had the opportunity of seeing it across all seasons, which is just beautiful, and places where the sea is just this azure blue. Anderson in again, getting behind it is Young. Ball drops into the pitch in the offside, no run.
Well, I've kind of ruled that out. I don't know quite why. I mean, it's the obvious place to think about, and maybe Tenby up and around that peninsula as well. But I think they'll be very popular and will be taken.
Have you been?
So I was
have you
looking-
been to the Lake District?
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's very.
Well, I
beautiful
lived
as
here for
yes,
a number of years.
Yeah, you travelled around.
But I haven't been to Northumberland up there. That's a bit of a trip, of course.
Anderson in, 3 slips go down, a little bit of watery sunshine in the evening, tucking in behind it again, Young defensively into the offside and no run.
But there's that nice beach as well I know it's on the east, so Bamborough and those kinds of places,
Right.
up from Morpeth and through there and carrying on up towards Berwick-on-Tweed, is it? Something like that? Yeah, that sort of coastline there. I was wondering whether that might possibly, and I think there wouldn't be so many people. It might be a golden place to join,
Well, that's the joy, isn't it? Going somewhere where you're going to be as on your own as possible.
And I can sit on the sand, the kids can go in straight into the coldest water. Yeah, it'd be good.
Anderson in, shouldering of arms from Young through to the keeper. So you're moving away from the sort of popular
I
destinations,
think
Cornwall,
so.
Devon,
I'm a bit late.
Snowdonia, Wales.
I'm a bit late, you see,
Okay.
to do all that. So thank you for your help anyway.
Not sure I've been
That's
that
all
much
right. No. I've got Mr. Cook coming in now. Be serious. There we go. Okay.
Oh, serious Cookie. He's not got Cookie doesn't have his serious face on. Anderson, with that customary sweatband on his left wrist, races in now to Young. It's straight, or he looked to try and work it down the leg side, got himself into a bit of a tangle, and as he stands at the crease, the ball's just dropped by his feet, and Anderson in his follow-through has playfully kicked it onto the stumps right in front of the batsman. So Bracey now is repairing the furniture. Square leg umpire moving in to make sure that the bails are properly top of the stumps. Andy.
Just had a tweet from Laced Fish, who points out that Will Young and James Bracey were teammates from, they think, Bristol Cricket Club from about 3 years ago.
Have you noticed any particular interactions between the two of them thus far? I haven't, no. Anderson into Young. He's 58 not out, and Anderson is in outside the off stump. Some shape away on that occasion. Through to Bracey. It's the end of the over. Anderson wipes some sweat from his brow as he heads down the pitch to have a little word with Joe Root, the captain. 163 for 2. 20 overs remaining in the day. Taylor on 12 and Young on 58. Good evening, Sir Alistair. How are you?
Good evening.
Good.
So you lived in Cornwall?
I did. That's where I studied journalism, qualified as a journalist in Falmouth. Right down, not quite as far as Land's End, but when you look on the map, it's almost that far down. It was. Oh, it's beautiful. It was stunning having that opportunity.
Can you surf?
I did not go near a surfboard in Cornwall, but I did. The first and only time I've been taken surfing was in South Australia.
Okay.
The cousin took me to a place called Boomer Beach. Called Boomer for a reason, because the waves are not small. And they're not quiet. And it was a little bit like being caught in a washing machine.
Not the good place to learn.
The waves were, I think they refer to them as dumpers, because it did just pick you up and then sort of drop you on the sand. It was not a good place to learn, no. Although I did have a go in October one year in Devon. The waves were very, very little. That was more like it for me. We've got Mark Wood from the pavilion end into Taylor. It's on a length. He's defending, coming forward from off stump. 2 slips in place for Mark Wood. Yeah, you've never had a go?
No, my friend had his 30th birthday. We had 10 people went down literally just before the lockdown came in, or second lockdown. Last summer we went down to Cornwall. We had a couple of surfing lessons, but I got up a couple of times, but I don't think I'm flexible enough to jump on the board. I got going all right. I got caught the wave, and then as I tried to stand up, I just keep looking down. You've got to look up into the horizon, apparently.
Here's Wood rushing into Taylor full. Driving is Taylor, reaching for a little outside the off stump, but along the ground wide of mid-off. He takes a single, scampers through, and sliding stop by Stone. 164 for 2. Andy?
Just a 2-over spell for Ollie Stone. 3 boundaries. He had 3 boundaries in the last 2 overs of his first spell. Cricket's data show that he'd drawn more false shots than any other England bowler in the early stage of the innings. His first 5 overs went for just 9. Had that poor drop catch by Root at slip, but then his next 4 overs have gone for 28 with 6 fours.
But a burst from Wood to see if he can generate a little bit of pace. Can he unsettle Young? Dropped on 7, now on 58, and Wood bounding in full. Young defends up to mid-off and no run.
So we had lessons, and I got up a couple of times, and the next day it got a bit more bumpy, so we thought we'll go out without the teacher, and we just couldn't stand up at all.
Aren't you meant to learn that art of a sort of leap from the prone position to the stand on the beach first before you actually go out onto the waves?
Yeah, no, we tried that, and then we went straight to the waves, but I was getting up in instalments. But especially, we went to Sheringham last weekend as a family, and the waves are probably about 2 inches.
Got a catcher in at short extra cover here, and Young getting well in behind one from Wood again on a length. It's Joe Root coming to that short catching position.
Yeah, probably about 2 inches high is more my kind of surfing.
More like it. What about stand-up paddleboarding though? I mean, it's not remotely like surfing, very different.
No, we had a go at that as well. We had the children down on the beach of Sheringham, right in front of the 2 lifeboats pub, and made friends of the owners there. They looked after us very well. It's just brilliant, wasn't it? It's my great uncle, not my great uncle, but the kid's great uncle was getting on the paddleboard and just kept falling off the back, and they thought it was absolutely fantastic. Like a bit more of a seal as he was trying to get back on the old paddleboard.
I love it when you see people with their dogs on paddleboards, the dog just sitting at the front. Wood again outside the off stump, some good carry through to Bracey, takes it around shoulder height but didn't trouble the batsman, and Young happy to let it go. Wanders down the pitch, a little bit of a prod, and Ross Taylor is walking towards him to exchange a few words. The breeze is picking up again and just rippling the white sheet that's spread across the seats at the far end like a sight screen.
Been very controlled, hasn't he, Young? All innings, he's playing the same tempo, very slow scoring at the beginning, and then a little bit of a spurt, and he's back into this defensive mode. He's doing a brilliant job for his team. It's, again, a bit like Conway, very simple technique, isn't it? Just not big triggers. When it's full, it's forward, and when it's back, he's back.
Wood in, defending outside off stump, angling the ball out towards the points. No run. Suns come out over Edgbaston again. End of the over, 164 for 2 in reply to England's 303.
And they've both those New Zealand players, whether it's just because Kane Williams is so good at it, and you always tend to copy your best players, play the ball so late. And it'll be an interesting stat actually about the differences the way New Zealand have played the ball. Say a couple of the England guys have probably played it a bit more in front of themselves, but these guys, it's such a good skill to have when the ball's moving, to play it under your eyes. And Conway and Young really surprised me of how well and how late they have played the ball.
Will Young, 58 from 146, but he scored 9 fours, so 36 with 58 runs in fours. Shows how he's defended, but then been very precise and effective with his attacking shots.
Yeah, he's leapt on the ball when it's been there.
Yeah, sometimes you'll say, you should look for intent with his singles, but it feels like he has actually been watching, hasn't he? He hasn't looked like just defending. He has scored. I think obviously Stone prefers this end, doesn't he? The end he's bowling now.
Yep, so he's come on to the City end of the ground. Stone in, it's a full and straight to Taylor. Back up the pitch in a defensive fashion. Up to Stone, he picks up no run. The pigeon sweeps in front of the commentary box window. Perilously close to the window, actually, he was. I mean, if you've got Kane Williamson as your number 3 and your role model captain, I suppose, there's no better player to watch as to how to play a moving ball.
Yeah, it's amazing how that kind of happens in teams. I remember playing Sussex.
And Stone is in, right arm over, outside off stump, shouldering of arms through to Bracey.
Yeah, he played against Sussex, when Murray Goodwin was playing, and he was a short guy and a very distinctive technique, cut and pulled, very still at the crease, and you suddenly all the youngsters were copying how he played. Tim Ambrose batted quite similar, very good strong cut, kind of Matt Pride did a little bit. Just it's amazing how it just evolves, isn't it? Your senior players bat one way, the youngsters see that and kind of try and copy it, and you can kind of see a little bit from New Zealand, obviously Williams.
Taylor awaits Stone, tucks him up a touch, he comes forward, manages to turn the ball into the ground into Crawley at mid-wicket, and no run. I mean, Graham Gooch was well known as your mentor in terms of someone who you watched and almost sort of tried to emulate. In your early years.
Yeah, not really our batting styles at all. No, we couldn't have been further from with this.
Was there someone that you did look and emulate?
Not really. I mean, I think the shock I got about my games when you're a bit younger, when you're like 13, 14, people write a few columns, is the new David Gower.
No, the left-hander.
Or the lazy journalism, I suppose, you would in local papers.
Stone in, it's full, looking to drive Taylor, doesn't get it past cover. No run.
And obviously watching David Gower bat when you're young, the graceful cover drives, free flowing. I was like,
because you had so many of those.
That's all right. And then I kind of went to Lillishore, and the first time you ever got videoed yourself batting, I was like, is that me? Do I do the double backlift? And I didn't realise I did the double backlift, and I was like, that is certainly not David Gower like.
Did you try to change it?
No, I did try and change the double backlift out of curiosity for a little bit.
Here is Stone rushing in past the umpire to Taylor, leaving it alone outside that off stump again.
Yeah, just to see what happened. Someone like Matthew Hayden had a very clean backlift, didn't he? Just pick the bat up and then just hit it. It was so simple. And obviously, look at mine, lots of moving parts. Look at Rory Burns, lots of moving parts as well. Very similar in methods. So I tried that, but I just couldn't get any rhythm. So obviously that's where I got my rhythm from. I picked the bat up and then it came down and up again. As the ball came down, that's where I generated my timing from. And I didn't realise I do it. It just shows, doesn't it? It certainly doesn't look like David Gower. If it did, David Gower wasn't graceful.
Stone down the leg side, and Taylor motioned to go after it, came forward, looking perhaps for a whip through the onside, but made no contact, and through to Bracey to end the over. The score remains 164 for 2 with Taylor on 13 and Young on 58. 18 overs left in the day, all in reply this to England's 303. All out. Just to recap, Lawrence was 81 not out in the England innings, added 14 to his overnight score. Didn't get loads of the strike in the first hour because Mark Wood was making merry with the bat, added a quick 25 off 22, and he ended up dismissed for 41. And Trent Boult took 4 for 85. England in all adding 45 to their overnight score this morning in 11 overs before they were all out for 303. But it's just the beauty of cricket, isn't it? About the different techniques and whether it's bowling actions that you see children like emulating as they run down the street doing an air bowl, or the way a batsman sets up. Wood in again, turned square through mid-wicket by Young. Jogs down to the far end for a single as Pope moves in to field.
It's like Labuschagne, isn't it? Copying Steve Smith, isn't it?
They are, yeah, he is his shadow.
Every time Steve Smith kind of evolves his technique, Labuschagne does it as well. But I tell you what would be interesting to see in the next 10 years, whether a few of the young Australian players start copying Steve Smith, like changing where they stand on the crease, being really open certain times, big triggers, small triggers, that funny leave he does. It'd be really interesting to see that evolves. He's obviously one of the great players of his generation. Youngsters sit and watch him play, whether they'll try and copy that.
Yeah, you certainly see it in videos, of kids in the backyard. Wood in, defence once more from Taylor. He's on a length, angled bat, deadening that ball into the ground. It rolls up to Broad at mid-off, who fields. But it works for Steve Smith. It's not going to work for everybody. But there was quite a theory, wasn't there, at one point about back lifts and by moving the bat up and down, you're sort of wasting time, and wouldn't you have more reaction time if you're actually poised with bat raised? I suppose a bit like Bairstow is. He's almost in that baseball style, just waiting, and then it's just one motion to bring the bat down.
Yeah,
when the ball's delivered. That's it's another theory. Yeah.
I mean, Gucci had his bat held high, but he would go down and up to generate the power as well. It's an amazing thing, isn't it, batting technique?
Wood rushing in again. It's a little bit fuller. Taylor overbalancing a touch as he comes forward. Anderson picks up in the onside, no run. I think
what we have seen now over the last few years, the MCC manual of batting is, when everyone was like, in the 1960s, 70s, everyone stood against the wall, very side on. This is the way you have to play. But the MCC said that's what everyone did, and now you can see, with the game evolving and obviously different kind of shots, but a lot more players are more open. You can be more open. You can still play with a straight bat starting open. You can move your shoulders in different ways. You can trigger in certain different ways. And certainly, I think due to T20 cricket.
Wood over the wicket, or to Taylor. Turns it through mid-wicket. It's off for a single. It should be 2 here. Wood with his hands on his head. Just angled in and easy enough for Taylor to work into that onside. But I mean, that batting manual, would never have been thought of, that a ramp shot, angling the bat and looking to flip directly over the keeper's head. That would have been, I guess, seen as sort of like a childlike shot, but not Absolutely. A correct, batting stroke. But what is
Absolutely. And
a correct batting stroke is one which scores you runs.
It is, and I think the ability to get access to the ball with the bat, with a straight bat in a test cricket, you need that. It's some fundamentals which stay the same, but if that means for you can keep your shoulder out of the way, or you're really open, then great.
Wood in, Taylor waits, defends, swings that back leg around, back up the pitch, and Wood picks up. But the beauty of it, is what works for you, and even looking at bowling and the way that Jimmy Anderson, in his career, the angle of the head as he releases the ball, not looking down the pitch, and there was an attempt to sort of coach that out of him at one stage, wasn't there? And I guess also fears for what that might do to his body, his physiology. But in fact, he's lucky enough, and the hard work that he puts in with his own fitness-wise, but his physiology has held him up, since 2003 in international cricket. Extraordinary. He went back to what worked best for him. Bound at the crease from Wood, a side-off stump, angled behind square towards point. Safely fielded by Burns, and no run, 167 for 2. Taylor 15, Young on 59. The drinks being brought onto the field, and just some of the heat that was there when that ball was really swinging and hooping in that first sort of half hour in particular after tea, is just... Some of the sting has gone out again, hasn't it?
Yeah, New Zealand have weathered the storm, haven't they? Only losing 1 wicket to it, and ironically, it was probably one of the worst balls of that little spell, wasn't it? It was a leg stump half volley. It wasn't, the times the ball beat the bat past Taylor. And Young, it was a leg up half volley at Conway who hit deep down the deep backward square leg, a flick shot straight to him. But you feel New Zealand has weathered the storm.
It was the flamingo shot, wasn't it? The same that he struck at Lord's to bring up his 100. But it was quite out of nowhere, as if he just hadn't realised that Crawley was there. Maybe that was belied in his facial expression when the catch was taken. But yeah, like a bit of symmetry in the way that it was Crawley who had taken the catch low down that was given not out when it was scooped in off the grass at slip, but then given an opportunity in the deep to hang on, and he would have been mighty pleased to have clung on to that one. And it was a fair catch, and Broad the bowler as well. So, but Devon Conway making 80, adding to his tally of runs in the double century that he scored at Lord's. And before that, the first wicket of the day fell in the 6th over. It was Tom Latham, the standing captain. A ball that was a little fuller from Broad, nipped back, and he was LBW. He was out for just 6. It was like a long time ago this morning. The afternoon session, England went wicketless. New Zealand moved from 43 for 1 through to tea when they were 130 for 1. And now 167 for 2. Do you feel, though, Alistair, that New Zealand haven't been able to really stretch away from England yet, in terms of the runs? Yeah, it's still the deficit. They're the ones coming from behind. They're 136 behind. There's still an opportunity to try and grab a couple of quick wickets before the close and still very much be in it. And I'll just leave you to answer that and ponder that. And Dan Norcross is here waiting to come in.
Absolutely. Kind of the magic mark for run rate is around 2.7. That's what the coaches all bang about. If you get your wickets at 2.7, or if you're keeping the run rate out there, you're doing a good job. And I think England are just about around there. And you're absolutely right. And they'll take heart in that Neil Wagner's potentially batting at 8. So New Zealand do have a lot longer tail in this game. I've got to give credit as well, those in New Zealand. They've really fought hard in this innings.
Yeah.
They're lucky. I think they've got a bit of luck with the new ball, as in terms of the ball didn't do anything. And when they changed the ball, it made a big difference. But they full credit, they battled hard. And England just have to hang in there. It's one of those tough periods in Test cricket. 17 overs left tonight. So they get a brand new ball in the morning, which will be good for them. But if they can just get, they were looking 2 more wickets in these 17 overs. And New Zealand will be 210 for 4, maybe. And it's still pretty even game. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening. I mean, I suppose Root's going to have to bowl a bit, isn't he? Because we've just had lengthy spells from Broad and Anderson. We've got Stone and Wood bowling now. And it's going to be Stone from the City end, running in with 2 slips. First ball after drinks is outside the off stump. Left alone. Bracey takes. Young has 59. Taylor has 15. 167 for 2. New Zealand well placed, but I suppose Root will bowl 4 or 5, will he? And then might we see Dan Lawrence?
Well, I was going to say whether it was worth giving Dan Lawrence a couple of overs, maybe ahead of Joe Root. They wouldn't have seen too much of Dan Lawrence.
He's got a curious action. When you watch him, you sort of think, is he bowling leggies? But he's not, is he?
Lizard-like, I think.
Lizard-like. Stone faces bowls, full ball, worked up to Stuart Broad, who's back out there with his sun hat on, mid-on.
Yeah, he sticks his tongue out when he bowls. Quite a long tongue as he's running in, with all his arms and legs go everywhere. It's a little bit lizard-like.
Did you read that extraordinary revelation that Andre Agassi could tell which side Boris Becker was going to serve by the way his tongue came out of his mouth as he served?
I hadn't known.
Oh, I'll tell you, but it's absolutely incredible.
I struggle to read.
Stone is in. That's it's guided really into the sort of gully region by Young off the back foot as a shorter ball, jacking back into him. There's no run. So as he was serving it, if Becker's tongue went to one side, it was difficult to speak and do demonstrate at the same time.
And you're on radio, so no one can see your tongue.
Yeah, no one can see, so I don't quite know why I'm doing it.
Apart from you showing me your tongue, but
no, I am. Yes, which must be unnerving for you.
Dropping the ball.
I saw your tongue, so you can see mine.
How many times did Boris Becker bounce the ball? Are you going to do that as well?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that bit. I'm not sure that bit's relevant. As Stone is in again, short, pulled round the corner for 4. That's a wonderful shot, a controlled pull shot to a short ball that was quite close to him. It's around about chest height. He just turned it round the corner almost, but with great timing. Wood couldn't get round to field. 4 more to the total, 171 for 2, Young 63. So if his tongue went to one side of his mouth, it was going wide, and if it went down the middle, it was going down the middle. And Agassi told him this revelation after they'd retired. He said the problem was that I would know where you were serving it, but I didn't want you to know that I knew, so I saved it for the really important points.
Now, is this true?
Extraordinary. I think it is.
I'm going to be looking at it.
Check it out. Stone in, and it's driven back at the wicket, and Broad fields at mid-on. And Becco said, I always thought that it was really spooky. I used to go back and tell my family, I can't believe how he knows exactly where I'm serving it. So I knew you knew, but I didn't know how you knew.
I'm going to be looking at YouTube tonight, watching Boris Becker serve.
Yeah, but start with that. And it was just, that was his tell. I mean, the fact that he could see from that distance, I mean, that's a little bit like when you cricketers, I'll come back to it, as Stone runs in towards us. And that's down the leg side. A good tumbling take by Bracey. A sort of stifled appeal again from the Hollies, who have been the most vociferous of the appealers today. 171 for 2 at the end of the over. Wood yet to get a maiden. He's going to come on again. 10 overs, none for 35. Young has 63. Taylor has 15. 171 for 2. Yes, you cricketers who say, well, I can see which way the ball's going by where it rests in the bowler's hand at the top of their mark. And I thought, that's great for you guys, but it's not for lesser mortals. That's not visible.
Yes, I struggled. It confused me when I was like looking at the mark, which side the sign inside on, because you had to reverse it, didn't you, a little bit? So I gave up on that. Like if someone's bowling a reverse swing, I just tried to react and play.
Just watch the ball.
But someone like Kevin Peterson would try and watch it in the hand and see it come down. I would just be like, I'm going to wait for the ball to set up for the ball coming in. If it goes away, I'll just kind of forget about it. But I was quite good against spin, like picking the revolutions of spin.
Wood is in, and that's full, defended on the front foot by Taylor. Back to the bowler. Talking about tennis, after we've finished tonight, we're going to be bringing you commentary on Novak Djokovic against Rafael Nadal at the French Open, which will be on 5 Live Sports Extra around about 7 o'clock. Heavyweight clash. They've been playing each other for years and years. So it's a bit like Arsenal v Tottenham now, isn't it? It's basically annual.
Nadal's going to get them, isn't he?
It's French Open, hasn't he? Won about 12 of them or something.
14, I reckon. I'm going 14.
Feels like about 120.
Yes, it renders the competition sort of more interesting in every other stage except the final, doesn't it, in a way? Wood is in, and that's short. And he's pulled this, and it's come off the toe end of the bat and gone into the air, into the offside, not in such a way as to threaten a catch in any way, but Wood, let me say, take a look at the replay on this. So it's gone for it's gone off the shoulder. It's gone off the shoulder and gone into the air, popped into the air, and there's no run.
Yeah, very strange. He got cramped with it. He keeps doing the replay, trying to extend his arms because he got very cramped, didn't he? His arms were right in towards his belly button, trying to play the pull shot. Ended up just taking on his shoulder. He didn't flinch at all, did he? I'll be rubbing that. I was close to it. I think it was close to 88 mile an hour. He just hit flush on the shoulder, bounced in the air, and he's just carried on as if nothing's happened.
Yes, which is quite extraordinary. 2 slips are still in. Wood is in, turned into the onside as full ball, and he'll get a single for it as Pope is in an unusual position. He's around 40 yards in from the boundary, but he's giving one, but he's not. He's there, presumably, for the top edge. 172 for 2, Young 63, Taylor 16. Andy.
Crickviz have just tweeted that the replacement ball that came in the 42nd over has swung almost 3 times the distance of the original ball.
That's felt like that, actually.
You mentioned about the New Zealand players playing really late. You mentioned the interception points data that Crickviz record.
I've got it totally wrong.
Yes. No, you're spot on, are you? Of course he is. Wood in, pushed into the offside. Taylor wants a run. He's been sent back early enough to survive, and Burns picks up at point, no run.
Shows that Conway has played the ball latest, then Ross Taylor and Will Young, then Dan Lawrence of the top, looking at the top 7 batsmen who batted in this test. Now, part of that might be that the New Zealand bowlers a little less quick, so maybe more shots played off the front foot, but it does sort of highlight the point that New Zealand have been playing the ball late.
You've basically just highlighted the point. You can make stats kind of get to the answer and then just fit the stats to it.
They are like a ventriloquist dummy, Alistair. Just stick your hand far enough up and they will say whatever you want.
It's beautifully put. Beautifully put.
I couldn't say that word then.
Wood rushes in and bowls a full ball outside the off stump, which is left alone. by Young into the gloves of Bracey. He's got some pace in him, Wood. We keep coming back to it, the balance of England's side without the spinner, which they feel they can't pick. They feel they can't pick because of the lack of an all-rounder, don't they? That's the issue.
That's what it is. And I genuinely feel for Joe Root over the last 18 months. It'll be interesting to see, even if you take injuries out of it, how many times he's been able to pick his full strength side available to him at that time. And I reckon it's getting close to zero due to rotation, policy, people leaving tours, throughout the bubble.
Paternity as well. As Wood is in, full on the pads. There's a stifled appeal. Doesn't come off. The umpire's not remotely interested, and the ball plops out into the onside where it's picked up. There is no run. End of the over. A decent over from Wood. 172 for 2. Young has 63. Taylor has 16, and Stone will resume from the City end. With not a lot happening at the moment, even though the ball is talking a little more. Stone's getting a little bit more shape, isn't he?
A little bit. It's one of those periods, isn't it, the Test match where not much is happening. Kind of what New Zealand will be quite happy, just plodding along. And then we'll feel a little bit frustrated, but this, as a side, you'll be like, right, come on, let's keep that intensity going. I see a bit more running between the wickets. One of that 40% fine as a little kick up the backside to try and get their over 8. We're still going to finish at 6:30, aren't we?
Yes, I mean, there are 15 overs left. There's an hour and 1 minute to get them in, so you would imagine that Root will bowl an over or two, which may speed things up. Stone starts a new over from the City end, and that's driven by Taylor into the offside, and he's going to get just the one run for it. As an absolutely marvellous piece of fielding from Jimmy Anderson, pouncing like, I think someone described it as a snow leopard snaffling a salmon or something the other day, which I thought was, I don't know if snow leopards do that.
Do snow leopards eat salmon?
I suppose they're available. Cats like fish, don't they?
I thought snow leopards lived in mountains. And
good point. I suppose streams.
But then streams up there. I don't know. What do snow leopards eat? Let's throw that one out.
Welcome to Winter Watch with Sir Alistair Kirk and Daniel Norcross, knowing absolutely nothing about snow leopards. Next delivery is played back of the square on the offside, but picked up easily enough by Sibley.
A bit of a shame my stint's coming to the end now, because we could have 20 minutes on snow leopards.
Snow leopards.
Yeah. I don't know where we'd go with it, because I don't know much about them.
Well, they're sort of pretty, and they may or may not eat salmon.
Very rare.
Anyway, he did it. It was very noticeable at Lords. Do you remember last week when Ollie Robinson had 4 wickets and Broad dropped quite a decent chance at mid-off, actually?
Did he?
Yes, he wasn't diving. He was sort of falling to his right, and it hit him in the sort of the base of the thumb. Stone is in, and that's defended on the front foot by Young. Full ball, picked up by the bowler. And the next ball, Anderson dived spectacularly to his right to cut off a certain 4. And I suppose the contrast really in its body shape, isn't it? Different kind of athleticisms that they have. But Anderson there pulling off another remarkable stop for a 39-year-old man at mid-off. 173 for 2. Stone is into Young. Young just defends really late into the offside square of the wicket, and they can get a single. You're right, Alistair. The batters are now they're looking for singles, aren't they? They're looking to run England a bit ragged here. 174 for 2, Young to 64.
According to the World Wildlife website,
yes,
snow leopards eat blue sheep.
Blue sheep.
Have you ever come across that in your farming life, Alistair?
Blue sheep.
As well as Argyli wild sheep, marmots, deer, ibex and other small mammals. No mention of salmon. It does say they do enjoy a sushi bar, though.
There's Stone in again on the hip. That's tucked away fine. It's going to run away down towards the boundary. I don't think it will be cut off despite Wood's efforts. It will thud into the boundary. Sponge for 4. Little tickle. It was just short and on the hip and easy for Taylor just to take advantage of that, and he got it fine enough. Close to 21, 178 for 2.
I think I've got a couple of questions about a blue sheep.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so snow leopards obviously live in the snow. I assume that's the clues in the name.
Yes.
That means white background. A normal sheep with white, white coats,
good, wouldn't it?
White wool, coats, wool, good camouflage. But blue one will stick out like a sore thumb. Easy prey, wouldn't it?
You'd think, wouldn't you? That's a serious design flaw. Stone in, as again a tickle by Taylor is going to bring him 4 more. Again, Stone his line is erring onto leg stump, and Taylor was just able to turn his wrists and get it really fine. It's 8 cheap and easy runs there, and that's put some momentum into New Zealand's innings. 182 for 2. We've just seen a blue sheep, and it's
Not blue.
Yes, it's actually sort of the colour of a mountainside without snow on it. But when the snow comes, that's when the snow leopard comes out and goes, ha, that worked fine in summer, sunshine. But I'm here now.
It's also known as the barrel. Is it an unusually melancholy type of sheep?
The what?
It's called a barrel, but if it's blue,
if it's
not
blue, yes,
blue
it
in
could be.
colour.
Yes, but it's
just have the blues.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, it might just be a blue sheep. Don't know.
Anyway, I assume it wasn't a blue sheep. I was just.
Well, that's not.
Anyway,
that's definitely not blue, is it? It was more tan, I'd say. As Wood is in, it's defended into the onside, full ball. There's a huge acreage of space actually for Young to score a single into the onside, because there's a deep forward square leg, there's a leg slip, and there's Jimmy Anderson at quite a straight mid-on. There's lots and lots and lots of space on the onside.
The leg slip's a slightly surprising feel for him. I haven't seen many balls go there. Obviously, the last 2 from Taylor went very fine, but there's not much margin here. He pitches up and bowls straight to Young, because he can just clip it nicely in the leg side. A very, very comfortable single. Are we going to see a bit more chin music maybe or a surprise bouncer?
Would he come round the wicket there? If he got that leg slip, maybe bring the leg slip slightly squarer?
Yep.
Because it's a very specific line here, isn't it, to go that leg slip. Woods in, he bowls that short ball, and Young goes after it initially and sort of pulls out of the shot. Because if you're bowling over the wicket to try to bring that leg slip into play, don't you risk just basically giving the easy single into the onside if you get it ever so slightly wrong?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he's bowling full on this line, with this field, not a square leg, not a mid wicket, it is just an easy single. But if he is going to go short for the remaining of the over, remainder of the over, he played one pull shot, didn't he? Off Stone from that end, where he kept it down. It went very fine. I mean, they're trying to target that.
Wood runs in, 2 slips and a leg slip, and that's on the pads. It's hit fine down towards the boundary. It chases on, and it will be cut off quite spectacularly down there by Stone on the long leg boundary. He manages to keep it to just 2. I do think that the penchant for this wide long leg to the faster bowler is a little bit exposed here. If he's going to be bowling on that line and trying to bring the leg slip into play, it's going to go finer. I think that long leg might need to become a little bit finer. Alistair Cook's left us. He's grown tired of the blue sheep, snow leopard conversation, and he's off to have a lie down as Wood is in to Young. Young lets this go by outside the off stump, wider of the off stump. Young on 66, Taylor on 25, 184 for 2. Michael Vaughan has rejoined us.
Good evening. It's been good cricket, hasn't it?
It has. It's been tight and difficult, and the New Zealanders have played really well, haven't they?
Well, I think New Zealand have shown how good a test match team they are today. Because there's been times today where the ball's zipped around and they've just hung in there. There was times where the ball's been flat, doing nothing, and they exploited that and went a bit harder because they realised it was the time to score. But that spell when England changed the ball and it was zipping all over the place.
I don't know.
They had a bit of fortune, but they played with
Wood in outside the off stump, full left alone.
It's like that delivery there from Mark Wood. That's a carrot dangle, isn't it? That's a full of length outside the off stump. And Will Young's just gone, no, I could have had a big drive at that, but you know what, there's an element of a slight risk. If I didn't get it spot on, the outside edge may be found. Might get it right, hit it through the covers, but I just think that the risk element of batting in Test match cricket, New Zealand have taken it into their favour. It's like, OK, we'll play real low-risk cricket shots. Try and make England, apart from that flamingo that got the wicket, of Devon Conway, I've been so impressed with the disciplined side of the batting today.
Wood runs in to complete the over, his 12th. And that's worked into the onside full, slightly swinging, slightly in-swinging delivery to Young, and he gets it out to Pope at deep square leg. They just come through for a single. 185 for 2 at the end of the over. 64 have been bowled to New Zealand today. 13 remain. Taylor has 67. Taylor has 25. Young has 67. That testing spell when Broad was bowling to Taylor, he bowled a couple of unfathomably unplayable deliveries. He was really hooping, and Andy told us that the replacement ball moved 3 times more than the previous ball. There's more change of kit going on. Pope's changing his kit, so I might change round, because by the time a ball actually comes to be bowled, it'll probably be time for Aggers to be on anyway. And the reason why that kit is being changed is because it had to happen, did it not, Michael? Joe Root's got to come on to bowl, because England cannot just keep on rotating these 4 seamers. So Pope's going to come in to be the ballast at short leg, presumably, or even silly point. And there's a slip in, backward point, extra mid-off. A mid-on. Root is going through his warm-ups. And so that's my cue to hand over to Jonathan Agnew after some thoughts from Andy Zaltzman.
Ollie Stone, in his last 7 overs, 2 at the end of his first spell and 2 short spells recently, has conceded 42 runs with 9 boundaries.
Yeah, he just released the pressure. Ollie Stone wasn't consistent enough, bowled a few short wide ones, a couple down the leg side. Not easy replacing Broad and Anderson.
He got him out once, and the captain dropped him. That's the infuriating thing, isn't it, from Stone's point of view? Anyway, Root it is coming on from the City end. Is a bowl to Young, 67.
So, as a bowler, if you've got someone, a pair in Anderson and Broad, that's so good, so high in class and discipline. And
his Root and he bowls, it's turned to short leg.
Controlled, give nothing away. How hard is it as a bowler to kind of replace one? You're then starting a spell and you've just seen 2 bowlers bowl pretty much no bad balls.
Root bowls, and that's played defensively into the pitch. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? The only thing I would say today, and we've been looking at the speeds, particularly Wood actually today. I think they have bowled Wood and Stone bowled overs into the wind. I think it's been pretty tough for them today. His Root clipped hard out towards mid-wicket, who's just set himself back a little bit. If you think at Lords, he bowled virtually every ball over 90 miles an hour, it seemed, and into the mid-90s, whereas here, it's something like 10 to 12% of the balls that he's bowled here have been over 90 miles an hour. And he's bowled quite a lot from the City end, and so too has Stone. It is a strong wind.
Yeah, it's not easy, but Ollie Stone came on, he just was so inconsistent, wasn't he? He bowled short, wide. Can't be easy replacing Broad.
In comes Root, bowling his off spin, and Taylor, who seems to have come through that difficult start now.
How did he get through that?
I don't know. It's like, it's something about watching an experienced player who, he's 37, he's been around forever, isn't he? He's had a pretty tough time recently. Just clinging desperately to all that knowledge and experience. There's a low full toss, and he almost pokes it to mid-wicket. He's got one that wasn't too far away from the man catching there. Well, he's there for the drive, but not from a full toss. 187 for 2, but he was just drawing on every bit of experience to just see himself through a really challenging spell from Broad. Root bowls, and that's just tucked away to mid-wicket by Young, who goes to 69. And New Zealand to within 116 now of England's total. Just chipping away. There's no pressure of time for them. They can just work themselves, well, first of all to get level, and then to build a lead.
Well, you just look at what we got about. How many overs left?
12.
So 12 overs to go. If New Zealand get through to stumps 2 wickets down, fancy batting the whole of tomorrow out, wouldn't they?
Yep.
Weather's going to be set fair, hotter, sun's going to shine. Well, that will. I say probably New Zealand will be near level by lunchtime.
Yep.
Lunchtime tomorrow. So if they're about the day out tomorrow, they're going to be in very strong position.
Young on 69. Wood goes running in and bowls him down the leg side. He's got something on that. It's gone flying past the outstretched Bracey. And it's leg byes, in fact, with the ball thudding into the advertising hoardings down there. It's 4 to the total, whatever they are. New Zealand won't mind. It's 192 for 2. What's Root going to do is short of options, we know that, and I think he knew it too at the start. He was just trying to find a way of playing a spinner and didn't think that he could go into a match with 3 quick bowlers and a spinner. Wood again runs in, bowls an in-swinger, tucked away into the leg side by Young, goes to 70. 193 for 2. Still the wind blows. I think it's dropped, or dropping overnight anyways, for tomorrow.
It's going to be hot, I guess.
Well, it's just 22 tomorrow. It's not a roaster tomorrow. I think it's Sunday.
Oh, is it Sunday, the hot day, the 30?
Yeah, Sunday, Monday. I think they're really hot days.
I'll tell you what, this pitch will end up spinning quite a lot then.
Yeah.
Patel will be fancying it, second innings. He'll be hoping that his team can bat another day.
So 3 men out for Taylor, who has got a bit of a flappy hook. And we saw Wood hit him with a quick ball earlier on. He goes Wood again, bowls to him on that. He's on the back foot for it. It's quite a full length. He picks up a single. Little experience again there, get away.
Yeah, well, that's always the frustration. You know, when you set a field like this, where you've got 3 fielders on the onside boundary, 2 slips still in place for that outside edge, and you've got that ring on the offside. There's so many gaps.
Yeah,
it's so hard to keep Taylor down the business end.
From a bowler's perspective, you don't want to bowl the bouncer first ball. You want to keep him looking for it and waiting for it.
It's a bit chilly out there. The skipper's got a big long sleeve sweater on. He wants something. He's trying to wave to someone. Is he waving to us? No,
I don't think so.
No,
into the dressing room, I think.
Oh, I think he wants extra cover over to mid wicket. That's what he's after. So really now he can't bowl any width, can he? Any kind of width here, it's an open season shot for him through the offside.
Yeah, he's got to bowl very straight, isn't he, with that leg slip as well. In goes Wood again, and he bowls, and that's around about middle stump, turned into the leg side. Young's got his eye on 2 here. Long chase for Stone coming up from fine leg. That he manages to do, keep them down to 1. So Taylor back down again. So we've got a fine leg. Crawley's going out to a deep square leg in front of a rather subdued Hollies stand actually now. Much quieter over there. And then there's a deep square leg who's 2/3 of the way to the boundary. It's also a mid-wicket and a mid-on, so it's that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the leg side. I think he has to bowl a short one this time. In goes Wood, is there, and he bowls a short one. Oh, it's fended off by Taylor very awkwardly. Very awkwardly. Again, beaten for pace, really. Because it wasn't a bouncer, it was short and aggressive and hostile.
One of those horrible ones as a batter, you know, it just facing someone like Mark Wood is skiddy. Never quite sure whether it's a duck, sway. You know, against tall bowlers, the ball kind of always bounces, so you just can go straight under it.
Short leg now, look, they've brought 1 man, well, from mid-wicket to short leg, so still 3 out. This is almost sort of Neil Wagner tactics, really. Taylor waits. Wood's on his way, bowls short to him, he fends it away. Pope fields at short leg, speculatively throws the ball at the stumps, misses. And it's 195 for 2. 37 years old and clinging on. And Ross Taylor's facing a barrage. There's something inside him that makes him like it and want to do it. But it's hostile stuff from Wood. And he's had a couple of stinging blows. When was his last half century? Or let's look back at Taylor's recent run, because he's struggled, isn't he?
Just 1 half century in his last 9 tests before this.
Yeah.
From memory, I mentioned earlier on, he's averaging about 25 in that time, having averaged 52 in his 50 tests before that.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a lean time at the moment. 195 for 2. Young is on 71. It's his first test half century. He's got his eye now on a century. Dropped really quite badly by Root when he had 7. That was at first slip. Comes Root and bowls, and turned by Taylor to short leg. It always looks easy on replay, and no slip catch is easy. It happens so fast. It's reflexes, and somehow the ball be in your hands. Sometimes it all happens so fast, doesn't it? Or on the deck. In comes Root. Bowles. Young forward plays out to cover. You ever find that? So you think, how have I caught that? Well, I have caught it.
Well, yeah.
Like an absolute flash.
To be honest, most catches I took, I was slightly surprised.
Root again. And just defended, blocked resolutely by Young.
Yeah, it's been good tempo by Will Young. He's just played the perfect number 3 role, really. Just nullifying the movement. He's always looked to capitalise. They've bowled a bad ball.
Root. And Young plays to cover this time.
It's the tempo, isn't it? You can just see that, like Devon Conway, you just feel that they've just got a nice, simple game plan that looks like it, could survive them for quite a while, long periods of time.
He's down the pitch this time, but can't beat the field. Crawley Fields at cover, 195 for 2. So New Zealand are 108 behind. There's 10 overs to go in the day's play after this one, as Root again moves in bowls. Darted in just outside the off stump. And played defensively by Young. More drinks being brought on. It's been a non-stop procession, really.
Colin de Grandhomme is there. It is, look.
It is.
Yes. There's the mullet. Jack Leach. He's got to be thinking, Jack, come on, Rooty, you should have played me on here.
But he's still smiling. He's delivered a drink to Mark Wood and is heading off back to the dressing rooms. But these drinks break, so this is what slows things down. The umpires really should be saying, "I'm sorry, batsman, but this is not a drinks break."
It's not boiling hot, is it? It's not.
No.
We're too dehydrated.
Off they go again.
They've got a mullet in the crowd. I think there's someone come as Colin de Grandhomme in the crowd. They just hand straight to him. Yeah.
There's only one Colin de Grandhomme. It's like somebody trying to imitate Andy Zoltzman. It just can't be done.
There they are. There's a few of them, the Kiwis.
Oh, there are a couple of Collins.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
195 for 2. And Wood sprints in. He's bowling to Taylor with his short pitched field, as it were. He tries to stab that away for a single to mid-wicket, but can't beat the scrambling Pope. He did really well there. He knew what Taylor's game was.
He's practicing this pull shot. So he's done it on a few occasions now. He's kind of measuring, he's getting up on his toes and he's getting his hands high, going to play the pull shot into the deck. Will he take him on? There's that fielder. No, there's a deep square leg on the boundary, the square leg halfway back, and a fine leg back for the top edge, and a short leg. So pretty much got everything covered.
Wood turns on the run and then bowls for Taylor, short of a length. Not particularly hostile, that one. And played down to mid-off. To Broad, who's taken the 2 wickets to fall. Latham for 6. Conway for 80. Didn't feature with the bat, though, Stuart. Broad, he got a duck.
Yeah.
After Wood's hilarious 41, which is worth watching.
Hilarious.
At 7 o'clock. I loved it, didn't you?
Well, it was magnificent.
It was.
Batting.
It was brilliant.
Cover drive,
everything.
Cut shot, pull shot.
It was wonderful.
Little glance over the vacant third region, just over the top of the gully.
That pull shot that he played is magnificent. So 41. Played really well. Walked off with a huge smile on his face. In goes Wood. He's there, and he bowls it short down the leg side and beats Bracey. Now I suspect this will sum up Bracey's fortunes at the moment, and up goes the dreaded hand to signal byes. But in reality, he couldn't get anywhere near that. And things are conspiring against James Bracey at the moment. He had a few of those at Lord's. I don't think there's a wicketkeeper on the planet who could have got even a glove to this. Anything remotely near it. That's a wide. It rather sums it up for him at the moment.
Yeah,
it's a tough time.
Yeah, they like their extras, don't they?
Well, yeah.
Keep them
very personal, isn't it?
Yeah, keep them as low as possible. That's so unfortunate.
It's like a goalkeeper. You want to keep a clean sheet. 199 for 2. Taylor gets a short ball, which he swats into the leg side. Doesn't really get hold of it.
Wasn't convincing.
Dribbles away for 1. The trouble is, you take it on, if you take it on, you're going to get more. If you take it on then John convincing, you're going to get even more.
Yeah.
Why don't you just get out of the way of it and say, go on, you want to waste your energy?
Yeah, I think if you take it on really well for an over or two, you've kind of nullified that. I don't think many bowlers come back for more of that. If you kind of whack it in front of square a couple of times, or put a couple into the stands, that's a fast bowler's nightmare. Not many players can do that, though.
No, there aren't. There's 2 slips and there's a very fine leg slip. And Young goes back to a quick ball from Wood, which he plays out to mid-wicket. And there is no run. Definitely quieter over there, as if they sort of burnt themselves out a little bit early today. I suppose, as I said yesterday, they're not match fit yet.
No.
In the Hollies stand. So I think they went early. And they've just lost a bit of puff.
Well, they've been poor, haven't they, today?
Well, they were good up to about tea time.
Well, they had a period in the afternoon where they got a bit of life, but generally it's about this time that they start to get it going, for the end of the day's play. 35 more minutes, find a bit of energy.
200 for 2, with 9 overs to go after this one. Wood's on his way, bowls very full, is driven by Young, a very pleasant looking stroke there, but finds Anderson at mid-on. So commentary continues on 5 Live Sports Extra, digital radio online and via BBC Sounds app. But Radio 4 long-wave listeners are leaving us briefly for the shipping forecast. And away they go. Andy.
Would you like an update from the other test match going on
Yes.
at the moment? Wickets just fallen for West Indies. South Africa now 215
Where are they playing this
for
one?
6. Sorry?
Where are they playing this one?
They are playing this in St Lucia.
Oh, right.
West Indies had a disastrous start to the series, 97 all outs in and just 40.5 overs. South Africa now 215 for 6 in 75. Mulder's just been out for 25. Quinton de Kock 49 not out. West Indies have a player called Jaden Seals on debut, 19 years old, only played 1 first-class match, taken 3 wickets.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw him get his first.
What does he bowl?
Quick. Jason Holder took it, second slip.
Root starts a new over. Taylor turns it to mid-wicket. Who does he play for?
Well, he's not played much for anyone.
Well, who did he make his sole appearance
Plays for
for?
school.
Here's Root. And, Taylor's suddenly gone for a clip over mid-wicket and he'll get 4. There's a cry of catch. Root looks frustrated. I don't think it absolutely came out of the middle of the bat. Root looks infuriated by that, but Taylor's smiling.
Well, I think he's not impressed with Zach Crawley's positioning, but too short.
It was an inside part of the bat.
Yeah, you see him there, he's just leaving him back a bit. He thinks he was in too close. What's he doing?
I don't know. Here he comes again and bowls a slower ball. And Taylor plays it back to him. Was it Barbadian?
Trinidad,
okay.
Trinidad and Tobago. There's 1 first-class match was for West Indies A.
Mid-wicket come back now, I guess. Gone all the way to the boundary.
So he has.
And Sherwood looks like he's coming off his long run.
He does. He's miles back there. I think he went to fetch the ball. 204 for 2. Taylor 32. Root moves in, bowls to him, and the ball runs into the offside, going for a quick single. Yep, they'll make that. Nice running.
So, because I'll take you back to the start of the game when you suggested that England potentially should bowl first.
I thought it was an option.
Yeah, and if you actually look at the way the pitch is played in the team that England picked, it probably would have been a better option.
Well, it might have been. Well, yes, they're in trouble now, aren't they? But it's just the batting.
Did more yesterday.
They didn't score enough runs, do they? Yeah. Root again. Bowls, and back goes Young. Plays it back to the bowler again.
But yesterday was a better day for 4 quicks.
Yes, definitely.
And the pitch has probably played better today.
Yeah.
It could...
Welcome back to our long wave listeners. You just a clip for 4 over mid-wicket from Taylor, who's 33. Young is 71. It's 205 for 2. Root is continuing. It bowls a tidy length outside the off stump. And there is no addition to the score. Stewards on duty, quite a lot of them today. Looking into the stand now. They're reclining on those collapsible chairs that I'm not sure if you get them anymore, but used to be sort of giveaways at petrol stations, didn't they? If you filled up with a certain number of fuel, You could get one of these collapsible chairs that are really quite useful, and they seem to be what the stewards prefer these days. There's more arriving now. There are heavyweights coming in, entering the bottom of the Hollies stand. Lots of shouting going on in there.
Ollie Stone's going to replace Mark Wood. Can he produce some magic on his home turf?
Wind behind him.
Yeah, can he just get his length right? Alistair Cook's on camera. Why is he on?
I don't know.
Well, the telly. Highlights at 7 o'clock.
$205 for 2. Young 71, Taylor 33. 8 overs remain. So it'll be with route bowling. I might just get in before 6:30. And out go the men again. So 3 in this trap on the leg side. Pope has retreated a bit at short leg. It's maybe 4 or 5 yards deeper than you might normally expect.
Yeah, he's almost there for that flick, isn't he?
Stone from this end, the City end, runs in and bowls, and Taylor can get up on his toes, turn this away. It's well fielded by Pope there at short leg.
Not gone tonight, Aggers, anything?
No, I shall be driving back home again.
Back to the Beaver.
Yeah. Quiet evening, I would imagine.
Yeah, talk of a bit of sushi tonight. Tufnell. Yeah, Tufnell and the
it's all
the
delivery
night
stuff, isn't it? Is it
yes,
delivery? Yeah.
yes. Bit of football on. Euro start.
Oh, of course. 205 for 2. In goes Stone over the wicket and bowls. There's the bouncer. But it's actually quite a good line, that. Taylor would have to have dragged that from outside off stump. But he opted to leave it alone. Yes, I forgot all that starting up, of course.
Every night now.
Is it England tomorrow?
No, England Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon.
2 o'clock.
Wales tomorrow.
Wales tomorrow afternoon, yes.
I remember commentating. It was a rather random penalty shootout in Euro 96. We were at Lord's. Goes Stone, bowls, back goes Taylor. I can't remember who we were playing, but it was a test match or a one day. It was full house anyway, and it was England-Spain.
Right, yeah. So
there were penalties.
Yeah, we won that one. Yeah,
I think we did. And
yeah, we did. Stuart Pearce crashed one in, I think.
The crowd were all listening. They were to the football at the time, and Dickie Bird. I'm pretty sure Dickie was there, but I think he was. But then I don't know. Anyway. So in the end, we had little option but to turn round to the television screen and actually commentate at the same time on the penalty shootout, which was all well and good, but didn't know who any of the Spaniards were. This is outside the off stump and it's in the air, flashed away by Taylor for 4 down to third man. So yeah, it was quite fun commentating on that.
This is a hard field to bowl to.
Yeah, it is.
You know, unless you're going all out. If you're going short, you don't need 2 slips. You know, but they've got 2 slips for the outside edge. They've got a short field for the pull shot, so 3 fielders on the onside boundary, so there's big gaps, short leg, so that creates more space, and just 2 fielders, one behind backward point, and then quite a wide mid-off. So any kind of width, it's just an open season shot for Ross Taylor.
Well, since the cut shot is about the best shot that he plays as well.
If they're going short, there's 2 slips need to come out.
Yeah. You have one out that point boundary or something like that. In goes Stone again and bowls fuller this time. Taylor's on the back foot. And he managed to play it, but he was absolutely all the weight back there waiting for another short one.
Well, he's thinking about just anything, just play it nice and late and glide it through that space between second slips. Second slip's now going to move.
Yeah.
Joe Root's realised that it's just so easy for a player they're in now. You know, Taylor's on 37. Yeah, just wait for that ball on off stump, just glide it down to that vacant third area.
Sibley's moved round. I haven't seen Sibley touch the ball today. He's in the gully. In goes Stone, bowls full again, and Taylor on the back foot punches up to mid-off where it's fielded by Broad, and that ends the over. So we've got 7 overs to go, around about half an hour of play or thereabouts. Michael, can I ask you? Oh no, you're going. Okay, you're unplugged. I've got to make room here for Allison, so we need somebody in there, unless Andy Zoltzman wants to do 2 minutes of stand-up routine or something to see us through. And Alison can come and plug herself in here. We have to have our own equipment and things. It takes a bit of a palaver sometimes getting it all to work. But Jeremy's plugged in more or less, Route's going to continue from the city end. There's a slip, a forward short leg.
These take.
Route on his way over the wicket, moves in and bowls, and Young is forward again. 71 not out. I don't think he'll get his 100 tonight, but he could be very nicely set up for tomorrow. Jeremy, then Alison.
Yes. These takeovers are very intricate things, aren't they? We've done that well, the three of us.
Slick, Jeremy.
One
is the
slides
word.
out, one falls over.
Here's Root in. Turn behind square by Young, setting off quickly for the first run and thinking about a second, but a sliding stop. The throw comes back in. Mark Wood throwing himself down onto the ground. Certainly saved one because Young was turning and eager to try and get a second. 210 for 2 then, so still some ground to make up on England's first innings, 303, but with 8 wickets in hand, New Zealand are in a very good position to bat deep into tomorrow as Root is in once more and Taylor forward, playing defensively, playing carefully with a slip and a short leg in place. Cloud cover over Edgbaston again. It's been a little bit glum and gloomy at times today in terms of the light. Occasional glimpses of bright sunshine. Root in. Taylor clipping it past short leg, setting off for the first. Just be the one. Crawley moving across to his right-hand side to field. 211 for 2. Young going well. 72 not out in only his third test match. And applying himself very well given this opportunity with Kane Williamson out of the side. Root gives the ball a little rub, a little bit of shine, tosses himself a catch, makes a false start, steadies himself and is ready to trot in again and bowl. Over the wicket, coming forward, stroking out towards the covers, but doesn't quite time it, Young, but use of the feet, looking to get to the pitch of the ball.
That's a good little sign, isn't it? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ali. That we've noticed, in fact, as the innings has progressed, that Will Young has started to assert himself as well quite nicely with some good shots.
And he goes back, misses into the gloves of Bracey now. He's looking up to the sky. Was that a misstumping opportunity? He's wandering out of his crease now. Young at the end of the over, but I think probably, judging by the reaction in the end, that his foot would have been behind the line.
Yeah, just a little full to play the stroke, the forcing stroke off the back foot. Root is bowling into a breeze if you look up at those flags at the far end. And he really, I think, he would love the ball to just curve before pitching. So in a little away movement from the right handers in the air to draw them towards that. And then if there's any turn from some footmarks from left arm, like Bolt and Wagner from New Zealand, or perhaps Broad coming around the wicket, there are going to be some areas of the pitch there that are going to come into play in day 4 and 5.
Stone in, new over into Taylor, into the ground, into the hands of short leg.
Taylor just nudging that across. It's very, very across crease, play across ball, play across pad. I'd love to see that ball come down sort of to mid-on and just wide of it, or straight back at just on the onside of the stumps would be a full face of the bat. But often his head is away over to the offside. You run the risk of missing it.
One slip, gully, short leg, Stone in, outside the off stump. He's looking to drive, but Broad throws himself down to the ground at mid-off and saves a run. Reaching, it looks to have a...
That's a rare occurrence, Ali, isn't it? That's a drive from Taylor, not a big foot movement.
No.
But the hands get there, and it's actually gone in front of point. That's extraordinary for Roscoe.
He likes to score square.
He does. He does.
Let's see if he'll get another opportunity. The ball was the right length. And such a width for him. It's a short ball, and he's swatted into the ground past short leg out to James Anderson, who's at deepish square, 3/4 of the way back towards the Holly stand, and he's taken a single. Taylor onto 39, 212 for 2. So Young back on strike. See, he's from New Plymouth, or born in New Plymouth. He's Jeremy. Is that North
right.
Island?
Yes, North Island
yeah.
to the west, about halfway up if you think of the North Island, where the little bulges that goes towards Australia.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's New Plymouth.
So just a little bit south of Rotorua and then to the...
Black Sands, Iron Sands and around that area.
Got a leg slip in place here. Stone to Young, and he's having a little waft outside off stump. A bit of a cross-batted shot through to the keeper. Didn't make contact. He just needs to keep those concentration levels going right to the end of the day's play. 6 overs remaining.
Yeah, good surfing that area as well. That's where Andy probably would choose to go and get his board out.
Kane Williamson is a good surfer, isn't he?
He is.
He's at Mount
loves
Maunganui?
surfing. Yes, that's on the other side, of course, up in Tauranga on the east coast.
Often see Instagram photographs of Kane and his dog on the beach. Now here's Stone in. Tighter on off stump and forcing Young to play, angling out towards Burns. Backward point, and there's no run.
Quite a lot of the Kiwis actually are coming from that area now. So you get Colin de Grandon's move up there. Ross Taylor's not too far away as well.
On the Mount Maunganui side?
Yeah, that sort of area. Tim Southey's over there as well.
Just a popular place.
Trent Bolt is there as well. So, yeah, quite a few.
What's drawing them all to that area?
The sun, I think.
The lifestyle?
The sun and the lifestyle, yeah. The water.
I can't really think of too many places in New Zealand where the lifestyle isn't desirable.
No, that's true.
Now here is Stone in again, straighter. Jules Young forward defensively, and Stone picks up in his follow through to end the over. 212 for 2. The score remains.
So the course of this match, Ali, what do you reckon? I mean, at the moment it looks as though England have missed out on their first chance of winning the toss on a biscuit-coloured pitch. They lost wickets in clumps, didn't they? And that's actually been very, very costly. So 300 is an okay total, but not really quite what they would have liked to be assertive in the match. So 450 would have been much better, obviously. So New Zealand now, if New Zealand perhaps can get to 220 or just above today, I don't know how many overs. Andy will leap to attention. The fingers are crackling. 5. There you go, just showing one hand.
Root in. Taylor covering up, no run.
So 220, and New Zealand only 80 behind. That's a session.
There'll be a new ball tomorrow, early in the morning.
That will be
England will need
crucial,
to,
yes, for England.
Root again to Taylor. Defence getting his head right over the ball, back up the pitch into the hands of the bowler.
Yeah, we want to see the drift from Root, just going away from Taylor and try and open a gap between bat and pad. He doesn't use the big stride, so the bat gets out in front. It brings the bat pad into play and also slip.
Root bowls, Taylor forward, works it into the onside towards Crawley, and there's no run. Yeah, so a first innings lead for New Zealand.
Well, if it's possible, they would love that, and of course they'd love to go on. They'll just go on and on, and if they're able to bat precisely on a surface that is okay at the moment.
Root to Taylor down the leg side, turns it away down to the fine leg boundary for 4. Racing along this green outfield. Takes
stroke.
New Zealand to 216 for 2. Made good contact.
Yeah, good stroke, Taylor. That's again to his, strength, really. That's sort of about middle and leg going down a wee bit, and he's just helped it round there. Can't set a field for that, really. So no movement, as I say, in the air for Root. This ball has actually been quite good for England, this replacement.
It was amazing when that change came, was it just before tea?
Yeah.
Suddenly some movement, some extra movement, a wicket fell. I mean, Devon Conway, we'll get a chance to hopefully speak to him after play, but it felt like that was just a sudden bit of a brain fade for him, not perhaps realising the field had been sent back in the deep as Taylor defends another from Root, coming well forward. But yeah, then that period with the first hour, 40 minutes after tea, the ball was
Broad.
hooping, and Broad was bowling wonderfully without reward. He's taken the 2 wickets that have fallen, but he felt another one was surely going to go then. A full toss from Root, and Taylor defending into the onside. Content to defend rather than try and go after it. 216 for 2, 87 runs behind as Root fiddles with the studs in his boots. Young on 72, Taylor on 43. Andy?
But to illustrate those patterns in the period between tea and drinks, 17 overs, 37 runs, and the wicket of Conway. Since then, New Zealand have accelerated 49 runs in the last 13 overs, helped by a few extras. But Ross Taylor has accelerated a scratchy 15 from his first 56, but now 28 from the next 34 balls he's faced.
And that's going to be really important for New Zealand, isn't it, to actually make that acceleration with the runs whilst they've got these wickets in hand. And then should a cluster fall with the new ball tomorrow, want to get as close to England's first innings as possible before that happens. So it's an important little tilt in the pace of the scoring for them in this last hour. Stone on, deep square legs back on the fence in front of the Hollies. He's gone for the pull shot. It's down into the ground, and ball is scooped up by Ollie Pope. A single for Young to move him on to 73, comfortably his best Test score after his 43. Only, of course, playing in his third Test match here. The first two came against the West Indies in December. But he's playing a very good hand, looking comfortable, looking controlled. Of course, was dropped on 7, remember. Joe Root at slip. It was Stone the bowler then. Taylor settles over his bat. Awaits Stone. Leaps in, he's driving again, Taylor, but Broad stops once more. Almost goalkeeper style, tumbling to his left. Grabs it two-handed and saves a run.
It's a good stop, isn't it? After the overs, I don't know how many he's bowled, but he's diving away to his left. I don't know whether he's hurt himself on that pitch or not, but he's a tall man. Yes, he's just taking it easy there for a moment, but he's managed to stop it, not cleanly.
Was it his hip he sort of fell heavily on? Or elbow, difficult to see. Leaning forward, taking a blow, some might say. Leaning forward on his knees. He's walking in now as Stone bowls on a flashing blade from Taylor. Rather fortunate the ball didn't take the top edge through to Bracey. He's shaping to cut away through that offside. And a bit of movement again from Stone. Maybe too close to be cutting. Taylor's wandering out of his crease, a little scrape, settle himself, make sure he's tuned himself back in. Settling once more. A cloud over Edgbaston, and many of the crowd in the Holly stand are on their feet. Stone in, forward into the onside. Taylor taking a single as Wood moves in from mid-on, languidly to field. And 2-1-8 for 2. I was thinking of the geography of New Zealand as we were talking about the various places there, bringing back memories of a tour in 2008. And I had to make the journey from Taupo to Napier. Mm-hmm. Is there still no petrol station on the road between Taupo and Napier?
Well, thank you for asking that question.
Stone in full, and Young forward defends to mid-off. Have you done that road
I have
trip?
no idea. Yes, of course I have.
Yes.
They've got a new highway in there now.
Ah, then maybe that has...
But I don't know whether there's any... You might have a dairy there. We call it a little dairy, where you go and buy just normal, I don't know, what's like a co-op.
Well, it may well be that dairy farmer that helped me out when I did get perilously close to running out of petrol.
Oh, really?
Yes, on that particular trip. I think at that time, this was 2008, but I think it's a well-known thing. Apparently, it was written in the Lonely Planet guide that there's no petrol station. Stone in back of the length, the swing and a miss from Young, looking to pull out towards deep square leg, through to Bracey. No run.
Have you started to think, Ali, that maybe you and cars aren't meant to be together?
It's a bit of a theme this week, isn't there? A bit of a theme. I don't know why that came to mind. It was a journey I did with Rebecca Naden, who's the photographer. I say veteran photographer, perhaps. Hello, Rebecca, if you're listening. And I think even now, because of course in retrospect I read the guidebooks, and apparently there are signs at the start of the highway which warn you that over 140 kilometres or however long it is, there is no petrol station, so fill up before you go. And we evidently didn't see the sign. But we got to realise that we're starting to run low, and actually pulled into a teeny tiny, a kind of one pub town. Interesting change of
Lawrence.
Bowling here. We're getting Dan Lawrence for...
Yep.
Now what's Dan Lawrence going to be bowling for us
off
here?
Spin,
A bit
I
of
suppose. A
leg
little bit
spin, is he?
off and leg, or is it?
It's off that looks like leg. I think.
Okay.
With his action.
Curious action.
I feel like I'll return to the story, but Dan Lawrence replacing Joe Root. I mean, this is a real throw of the dice, isn't it? With 3 overs left in the day, to see if just something a change-up will create a disturbance in the force, and perhaps a third wicket might fall late in the day. Slip and leg slip in place. Lawrence He's tossing the ball between his fingers. Well, now here is a run-up. It's all arms, frog in a blender style, and flipped her around the corner past the square leg umpire by Taylor. He's so busy in the approach to the crease. Almost a distraction for the batter. Taylor's down the phone for a single. He's coming down now to have a word with Young. When was the last time Lawrence bowled, Andy? Tossing himself a catch again.
He did bowl a little in the tests, I think in Sri Lanka. Just get up the stats.
Big swing of that right arm, up and down with the elbows, and then a release and full to Young, turning him around the corner again past short leg, who throws himself to the ground, but Wood is there to pick up.
Well, he's got a little bit of bounce. He's a tall man, and he kind of gets that front foot and quite, that's not too bad. I mean, you're right about the arms. It's obviously a swarm of wasps are around him.
We go outside the off stump this time. Driving is Young. Good-looking shots. It's got past Broad at mid-off. He's making chase back to the boundary or pick up inside the rope. We'll run 2, and Young says that'll do to Taylor. They thought about a third. 221 for 2. So very quickly, we pulled up at this one pub town to say, does anyone know where the petrol station is? And walked into this pub. Actually, a wake was going on in the pub. So as 2 people from outside of town walked in, with English accents to boot. We obviously stuck out. Lawrence into Young outside the off stump, gently turn into the gloves of the keeper. Anyway, one of the people at the wake broke away from the wake and said, I've got a farm, I've got a petrol
at the farm.
Canister at the farm.
Sure.
So we followed this chap in his car uphill, round Dale, through 5 Bar gates, over the hills. Lawrence in to Young, who's forward and defends. Pope at short leg picks up a no run, and we pulled into a cowshed, and he had a petrol tank, and he filled us up with petrol.
Really?
And we went on our merry way.
Here we are.
Friendly, hospitable New Zealanders.
Yes, that's great. That's great.
Safely got to Napier. Last ball of the over from Lawrence. Gives the ball a little rub in his left hand. Young's on 75. A swirl of arms up to the crease and bowls it flatter and turns square by Young. Correctly, neatly. Finds Crawley, takes a single. 222 for 2.
Lawrence bowled just 3 overs in the tests he played in the winter. He's bowled quite a bit for Essex, more in white ball cricket. In first-class cricket, he has 14 wickets, but 5 of them have been in the county championship this year at an average just over 30.
It's one of the great actions, Jeremy.
Well, that was a heartwarming tale. Thank you.
Well, there you go. There you go. It just triggered that memory. Daniel Norcross is coming in. 2 overs remaining in the day, Jeremy. So I'll leave a few more thoughts from you. Here's Dan.
Yeah, well, New Zealand, hopefully, from their point of view, all the 2s at the moment, 2-2-2 for 2. And Young, 76, Taylor, 45. He's moved there quite quickly, actually, as we've just been pointed out. Joe Root is now going to come on, and he's switched himself round to this, the commentary end.
I'm surprised at this, Jeremy, because actually New Zealand have been making serene and splendid progress into the last 15 minutes when they were suddenly playing a balls they didn't need to. There were a couple of rash shots, and I thought there were a little bit of nerves there, and I thought that facing Joe Root with 2 overs to go might be their preferred option. He's going to come round the wicket, and he's got some rough to aim at. He's got what am I going to call this? A leg slip, forward short leg and a slip in. And he goes back into his crease as Young and works this ball into the onside. Shy of the stumps comes in, rebounds off Young, rather in the style of Ben Stokes at Lord's, but not quite as dramatically. And they pick up a single.
Not to the same effect on the game.
Not to the same effect, yeah. or yes, to the legend of cricket, yes. 2-2-3 for 2, so they're off double Nelson. And Taylor's on strike.
Looks like Wagner's padded up to come in next, Daniel.
Well, he won't mind facing Root if he does come in, I don't think, on this surface, particularly. Root round the wicket bowls. That's worked into the onside again, because that angle of attack makes it easy for the batter, and Taylor this time gets it out to deep backward square for a single. Young has 77, Taylor has 46. Fans are singing this traditional song. They don't want to be taken home, which suggests they thoroughly enjoyed New Zealand's display today. And it's tossed up by Root and nearly induced a false shot there from Young. There's a little bit of maybe inside edge off pad, and briefly it was in the air. Pope diving sparingly, couldn't reach the ball. He's a fair way back. He's a whole pitch length away. Pitch width, I should say. Next delivery identical to the first two, really. It's a little mix-up as they ran through, but a single easily taken nonetheless. The ball's bunted into the onside. 2-2-5 for 2. 8 balls remain in the day. We're going to get our full allocation. Again, 2 days running. Praise be.
That's normally on Sundays in New Zealand.
Floating up and down the leg side it goes. Hits the pad. The non-striking Taylor. It was way outside the leg stump, so there's no danger of LBW and there's no run. 1 ball left in the over. Root persisting with this round the wicket line. Taylor comes forward and just works it to short leg on the bounce. End of the over. 3 runs from it. 1 over remains in the day. Young has 78. Taylor has 46. It's been a terrific day for New Zealand. Looking back on things that England might have done better, they've had some chances and some half chances. Perhaps, I wonder if Bracey's been standing a little deep. We saw an edge that didn't carry to him. We also saw the edge, the contentious catch, the Schrödinger's catch that we mentioned earlier. Was it out? Wasn't it out? Well, presumably Crawley was taking his lead from where Bracey's standing. Had he been standing half a yard further forward, then it wouldn't have been contentious. No. And there was the drop catch of Root off Young. But other than that, those have really been England's opportunities not taken. There weren't that many of them. And New Zealand have just dominated with the bat today. They've been really terrific. Lawrence, in this extraordinary action, comes in and bowls a full ball on off stump. There's no run. It's almost like he's bowling googlies. There's so much going on in this action. Spinners often have eccentric actions, but I'm going to try to run through it. I mean, Ali Mitchell's probably already given it a go, but let's see, where can we start? And there's a big field change for the last over of the day. We've got leg slip in. So first up, there's a skip, a hop, arms whirl either side, and then the ball comes flying out like from a bowling machine and is then driven gloriously through extra cover out towards the boundary. It's being pursued and it will not be cut off. It was an absolutely terrific effort out there. Truly amazing effort, but
Stone.
I think that's Stone out there.
It is.
And he's bowled quite a bit today, and he's absolutely torn round the boundary. And of course, as is the way when it's not your day, you've got a hand to it. Tried to pull it back, but it just beat into it. When he got the hand and then he flicked it back onto his leg and it rebounded from the leg onto the boundary sponge. 2-2-9 for 2. Young with that moves into the 80s, 82. Lawrence in again. This weird angular approach. Oh, now then, has he got a wicket there? He has! Well, Young came forward, he's got a thick inside edge and it's been caught at short leg. Would you believe it? In the last over of the day, what will presumably be the last ball of the day. Well, you've got a feel for Will Young. He was only, 4 balls away from making it through to close of play. It was wideish outside the off stump. He came forward in prodding defence and it shot off the inside edge onto pad. A decent, neat catch diving forward from Ollie Pope, and he's walking off. The players, the New Zealand batters are walking off away from us. The England players are walking towards us. What a bonus wicket for Dan Lawrence, his first in Test cricket. And an inspired bit of captaincy from Root, perhaps. But, how Young must be feeling tortured. He must be feeling much like Tyrrell Conway did earlier when he picked out Crawley down at deep backward square leg. It didn't spin miles, did it? I mean, there was a little bit of turn on it that got the inside edge onto the pad, but Young walks off ruefully, having made a splendid 82. And England, after a torrid, hard day in the field, have got a bonus wicket at the end there, and that'll make them feel an awful lot better in the morning.
Yes, it will. And Young just being lured outside the off stump just a wee bit to push, and have to push, therefore, at the ball a wee bit. And he had it come from, he didn't quite get there, and then gave the ball a chance to turn. It turned to the inside edge of the bat. It then struck the pad, so a bat pad, and then looped to the left of, who was it there? Ollie Pope. Yes, in on square, and he had dived to a comfortable catch to his left before it struck the ground. So it really was a comfortable catch, the end of the dismissal, but it was the length of the ball, the enticement of the ball, and also just a little bit of turn, and that will be of interest to the New Zealanders as well in the end, that if they can see a little bit of turn from this surface, Ajaz Patel in particular will be interested.
Well, there was disbelief on Will Young's face. There was almost denial, actually, because he couldn't quite believe that he was out, as if this can't be how it all ends, does it? I put in all this work and I go to the part-time off-spin of Lawrence, but he's got to. And credit to Lawrence. 1 for 8 from 9 balls, but he made the breakthrough, and England have got their third wicket. A dramatic end to the day. New Zealand closing on 229 for 3. 2 wickets for Broad. Yes, figures are 2 for 22 amidst all that. And Dan Lawrence 1 for 8. It's definitely been New Zealand's day, though, notwithstanding England starting the day on 258 for 7. They added 45 runs for the loss of 3 wickets. A very entertaining first 20 minutes. And then Wood went for 41. The tail followed soon after. Dan Lawrence high and dry on 81. And then we had another Devon Conway masterclass with the bat, which was ended in utterly surprising fashion, didn't it? I mean, I don't think anybody realised that Crawley was out there to take the catch at deep square leg, but he aimed this wristy flick. He'd not played a shot remotely like it throughout his innings. He departed for 80. Latham had before that earlier been trapped LBW by Broad, and then the last ball of the day, as it turned out. But New Zealand's day, Jeremy Coney.
I think so, claiming the last 3 wickets. It was a little bit messy for a start, wasn't it? Wood was very attacking and pugnacious and so on. And a quick 40 from him. The other remaining wickets fell quite quickly. And so 303 wasn't perhaps what England would have liked when they set off and on a biscuit-coloured pitch won the toss and decided to bat in a cloudy atmosphere. Lost wickets and clumps, and that in the end was costly for them, and not getting a total that they could perhaps dominate the game from there on. So New Zealand had to set off, and as you say, you've described the dismissals along the way. In between, there's been some quite precise batting. They've worked hard, New Zealand. A shame that they've lost that last wicket as far as Will Young is concerned, who was going along relatively serenely, actually. And so New Zealand have put together some partnerships, especially the second and third wickets. So we'll have a new batsman at the crease tomorrow. That'll be Nicholls. And so let's see what tomorrow brings. New Zealand's 74 runs behind.
Well, indeed, what tomorrow will bring initially is Dan Lawrence is going to be opening the bowling tomorrow, because he's got to finish that over. And then 3 overs after that, a new ball will become available. That's what England will be hoping for, if they can grab a few quick wickets.